we're going to go over to Quebec, where we have a new face and an old face for us. Not talking about your ages, just talking about your appearance on the show. All right. So we got Dan and we got Daniel. Hi, chat. We got Dan and Daniel. How are you doing, gentlemen? Let's go
Yeah.
with Daniel.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you again for the invitation. And about the joke, very funny. And did you know that some people told me seriously that it wasn't true that people were starving in the USSR time with Stalin? So he was a good guy and stuff like that. So maybe we should look at where what is teach talk. Qu'est-ce qui est enseigné à l'école? So yeah, I think we missed something in the education.
Very good, very good. Yeah, because well, who writes history and then who changes history? Have you read 1984? It's malleable; it changes all the time. And then, hey, Dan, nice to see you again. So I'll say Dan and Daniel because you both have similar names. Nice to see you again, Dan. And I hear the audio is fine.
Yeah, you can hear me well?
Yep,
Very good.
we
All
hear you
Loud and
well.
right,
clear.
great. Fantastic. Hi, Danielle.
Salut, Dan.
Do you know
Yeah,
each
I
other?
think we communicated a couple times like private message on Twitter. Danielle has been nice enough to retweet some of my articles sometimes, along with Max. So it's nice to it's a nice surprise to see him here. Bonsoir.
Yeah,
Bonsoir.
yeah. He's become a regular now, so he's here often. Oh, we
Great.
just dropped him. Somehow we dropped him. I'm sure he'll be right back. But yeah, I know he comes on every week. So we'll go ahead and go to
Ah,
you
wow.
first, and then Daniel will come back. I'm sure. So this is your first time here, and what we do here is we want to bring the news of Quebec. So whatever's going on in Quebec, it could be school boards, it could be the government, it could be grocery stores, like whatever. Go ahead and let us know what's going on in Quebec.
Yeah, do you want me to start?
Yeah,
Yes,
go,
you go.
go.
Okay. Well, I'll give you kind of a personal kind of news, just some eyewitness kind of report, if you will.
Oh, so you've been
I did,
bearing
because
witness, have
I
you?
don't regularly look at the headlines. I did a little bit before the show. We can talk
Hmm.
about some a little bit less important, more trivial things, but this relates to like earlier this morning I was talking about. I did a long series on geoengineering and weather modification in Canada. So, I've been studying this for like 10 years, this phenomenon, and it's quite large. It encompasses a lot of things, but a lot of people just use the kind of incorrect term chemtrails. So, most
Hmm.
of you are, I think you're familiar with that. So, it's just really strange because this morning I witnessed something I almost never saw.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I took a picture. I'll show you because I drove my son to school, and on the way back, because we had clear blue skies this morning, okay, apart from a few jet springs that they had. And on the way back, I took a picture, and I'll try to put it very bright on my screen here. I took a picture from the car. Shh, don't tell anybody. But it's basically it shows the blue sky and there's a rainbow, but it's not your typical arch rainbow. It's a rainbow that goes straight down. Okay,
Okay.
and I've seen those kind of rainbows before. Those are the metals or
Mm.
and the particulate that they spray. Okay, so it's very unusual. So I'll just show you the picture first. I don't know if you can see it well. Maybe my
No.
camera's not great. No. Okay, so basically, there's a straight line here in the middle. Basically, you can't see it's not very good. Maybe I should have transferred it to the computer first, but it's very, very unusual. So when you see those kinds of rainbows, they're definitely either a chemical or a metal
Artificial.
particulate. Yeah, artificial, definitely.
Mm.
But what was really strange is that I noticed the location of that rainbow because that's where I was going to turn coming off the freeway. And as soon as I hit that particular location,
Mhm.
it's like it was. When it's like snows, but it's almost like these tiny, tiny little ice crystals
Mhm.
that fall down. They kind of like reflect with the sun. It was a little bit like that, but it wasn't snow.
Hmm.
It was very strange. It was almost like these little, I don't know. You know, like when you put the tinsel on the Christmas tree, you know, the little
Hmm.
shiny thing. It's like they were things like that, but cut very, very small pieces. And it was just like dribbling in the air, coming down. No
Oh
clouds
wow.
above.
Did you got some samples or?
No, I didn't take any samples because I
Okay.
was in the car, but
Oh, okay.
maybe I could have got snow samples or something. It's very unusual because when they spray, usually it takes 2 or 3 days before the particulates to come to
Mm.
make it to the ground level. But this was very, and the way it was falling, it was definitely not snow. So I'd never seen that before, and it was quite, it's it's enraging because I see this all the time, and I don't know where Danielle lives in Quebec.
Quebec, Quebec,
Uh, where do you live in Quebec, Danielle?
Quebec City.
Oh, Quebec City.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of phenomenon. Do you follow this, or do you see this above the
Um,
skies of Quebec City?
I'm watching the skies, but sadly, Quebec City often it's in almost a month when we have clouds almost every day. So this is you kind of you normal for Quebec City to have the clouds, snow, many snow. The snow, I checked the snow. It seems to be okay for now. The only way to to check that will be to put it under a microscope. You know, to take samples and to put them under a microscope. Although you'll see in the snow, even the whiteness snow you could have, you will see particles, black, many things, because on
Mm.
the center of each snowflakes has a particle in it. This is how it's created. But it should be interesting to take some samples. They could be in Quebec City. We have a pollution problem with the port, the Quebec port. You know,
Yep.
so Montréal also, stuff like that. Alors, le port de Montréal, Québec ont des particules dans les airs, mais sachez que faudrait prendre des échantillons de neige. On n'a pas le choix. Alors, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me close to ports because actually
Hmm.
ships in the ocean emit a lot more particulate in the
Yeah.
sky than airplanes do, and a lot of people don't know that when
And
they talk about
much more than our
geoengineering. But
pickup.
that's a big, big source of pollution,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of particulates actually come from, especially from the like on the west coast of
Hmm.
Canada. I don't know on the east coast because the wind currents are a little bit different, but on the west coast, the wind currents come in because of
Yeah.
El Nino and all that. So I'm not as familiar on the East Coast in Quebec City and Montreal, but that's definitely a big source of the pollution. There's
But you
also
know,
microplastics and
in
all sorts of
Canada,
other
we
things.
have a rule. It's a law that if they are putting something through chemtrails, they must fill a report. It's in the law. So maybe that's a problem. They don't fill the report, or we can see what's in the report. Transparency is an issue for that.
Yep.
So for each plane doing some chemtrails, by the way, for information, all the people, à propos des chemtrails, alors il y a des lois depuis 1968, since 1968, there are laws to monitor,
Regulated.
regulated. Yeah, it's regulated since long time
Mhm.
ago. So we should have access to all these reports to know what they put in that. It's mandatory, and it's not often. Sometimes people are telling, "Oh, it's just condensation trails." Not quite sure.
No.
No, not every
Well,
no, not every time.
well, Danielle, you said the key word should
Should.
because they don't. Because I'll invite you, Danielle. I'll give you the
Mhm.
link to my series, the part three, and then you can link to
Yeah, yeah.
the part one and part two. I have a whole bunch of correspondence with Transport Canada and
Mhm.
Nav Canada.
Voilà.
All of them. I've been back and forth for about 3 months because one of them was not just media inquiry; it was the ATIP request,
Mm.
access to information.
Yeah.
And this one is really particular of Quebec. I don't know if you heard about this one, Danielle,
Mm.
but there were spraying operations that were conducted between 2009 and 2000 and late 2021,
Yeah.
and it was from an undisclosed operator. All the flights were approved,
Hmm.
undisclosed substances. So I made an
Voilà.
ATI request and a media request to Transport Canada to ask them, okay, who was the operator of these flights and what
Hmm.
were the substances and what were the purposes? Because I had responses by Transport Quebec and Environment Canada that they had spraying operation, cloud seeding operations in Alberta. Now they named the party who was doing it as Weather Modification Inc. You know, with
Mm.
the planes and the substances were silver
No,
iodide and all that. But the Quebec one, they're not being transparent. I've
no,
been back and forth with Transport Canada and
yeah,
even Environment Canada. I asked them, they're being very evasive. The last time they they answered the ATIP request, they didn't answer the question.
no, no.
I'll paste it in the window here so you can see it.
Mm.
Or but they like they showed like about 7 or 8 emails of a whole bunch of government officials
Mm.
from Transport Canada kind of throwing the ball at each other. And it was kind of like half answering a media inquiry. And I had to reply back to them. I said, look,
Mm.
you didn't answer at all my ATIP request. Here's the question. I think it's very clear. How come you didn't answer it? And I would appreciate a response. So they
Mm.
said, oh, well, we'll get back to you. Look,
Mm.
consult with the experts. I'll see
Yeah,
if I
maybe
can
we
paste
must
the
continue.
text.
We must continue to ask for these reports. Alors, on
Oh,
doit
I'm
continuer
pushing
à
them.
demander ces rapports. It's a
Yeah,
citizen duty to do that. Don't count on the government to do that, you know. So,
yeah,
and push them to some media also that you made the request and tag. Don't hesitate to tag the journalists. And I mean, someday somewhere there will be someone who will talk. Anyway, we had a journalist. I think it was last year from CBC, Radio Canada Français, je pense,
mhm,
qui en avait parlé, who talked about it, and she was proud to show what kind of technology they were using.
mm,
So it's not a fairy tale.
yeah,
There is something, and there's a lack of transparency. That's a problem.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, if it's to see the clouds, you know, to make some rain, it was there since many years ago. But every time they're going to do that, they have a declaration to do and produce, and it should be public uh, for all the people to see it. So,
yeah. I don't know, Danielle, if you're familiar. It goes way further than that. It goes back to the 1960s in Lac Saint Jean, Quebec. Did you know about Operation Umbrella?
I remember something about it. Yeah,
Okay, so just reading, this is in part one of my series.
yeah.
So, like, I'll just read from it. So, there was this Operation Umbrella. It was deemed so successful, too successful,
Mm,
because it resulted in depriving the local population, particularly
mm,
children, from sufficient exposure to sunlight because they were seeding the clouds, right? It's creating
yeah.
clouds and rain and all that. And backlash ensued, whereby parents like grumbled about the lack of natural vitamin D for their
Mm,
children. As a result, the Quebec Minister of Natural Resources had to cease the cloud
mm,
seeding program. This is in the Canadian Encyclopedia. I linked to it. So
yeah.
it's like this has been going on for a long time. But you said transparency.
Mm,
I pasted in the chat window there, I pasted
mhm,
my ATI requests. I do them manually. I don't do them electronically because
yeah.
they ask for a whole bunch of personal information. So
Mhm,
I do it manually. I mail it in. I pay the $5. And if you want to get an idea, I've been pushing them. I don't think any other journalist has been pushing them like me. I'll
mm,
put it in the chat window. Basically, I stored them on a
yeah.
server, a sister server I have here. You can look through it because one I did, I asked Transport Canada too, is did you know, and Danielle, you probably know this, but Canada's one of the only countries in the world that has a private entity that
Mm.
does the air traffic control for 100% of our airspace. Did you know that?
Which one?
NAV Canada.
Nav Canada.
Yep.
I know that in Montreal, it's the center, the pinpoint center to know all about the flights in the world. This is an important aerial center.
Okay.
Nav Canada is an authority. In United States, it's not like that, but they have an authority too to check that.
The FAA, but
Mm.
Nav Canada,
Mm.
I contacted them multiple times, and you can see in the link I just put
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Just look at the links of the files and anything Nav Canada, because I asked them for the ownership. Right, this is a private entity,
Mm.
and their CEO, I think it's Marc Courtois or something like that. He's
Okay.
the CEO of another company called Aeron. Okay, and this is a company in the
Mm.
United States with strong links to the Department of Defense.
Oh wow.
Okay, and he's on the board of TVA, Québécois TVA, Groupe TVA, I think.
Yeah.
He's on the board of that
Oh,
company too.
that explains why our media doesn't talk about it.
Exact. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I don't want to
Wow.
jump the gun. Like, it could explain. I don't have any proof of that.
I'm doing it.
But I have some serious question. And so I asked, this is a non-profit corporation. It's a special type of corporation we have in Canada. So, but I know, so I was asking, well, what about the ownership? Who are the owners? Because I know they have bondholders, right? So I had a little bit of information about some of their bond issuances, but they didn't share with me like who. Like I pressed them like three times, like who owns the bonds, because I told them, look, Canadians have a right to know who's if a private entity is controlling the airspace, then who the hell like owns this company, because for all we know, their board can be telling them what to do. They could be authorizing flights, military flights from the U.S. spraying our skies. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, that could be very well happening, and there's no oversight. I mean, the
Yeah.
military, they have agreement with Transport Canada. Transport Canada is supposed to be the regulator. Okay.
Yeah. Suppose that 1 month ago there was a big transport plane over Montreal, and that passes. That
Okay.
passed. It was a United States transporter. I don't know if it was
Is it military?
yeah, a military one. Yeah, a big one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of big transportation planes. So
Another problem too, I have, and you'll see in my correspondence if ever you look at some of those I put up. And another thing, and I contacted the Department of Defense and the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I was also in the contact with a former RCAF pilot. Corresponded very frequently with that pilot to ask information, technical information, and exchange about different things. Uh, because one problem, like I've been also filming, I have a whole section in part one. You can go, I live in the close to Sherbrooke area, and I put basically almost 2 years, like 100 pictures and 20-30 videos of this phenomenon happening here. It's just absolutely incredible, and these are not contrails. I've done the
no,
research. I've been doing the research for 10 years on this. I know that's bullshit, right?
there's a difference between the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, and I outline it. I'm an educator. I'm a 35-year like plus educator. I'm a teacher for 22 years. I taught at CEGEP level in Quebec. Chemin de Pic. I know how to do research. So in my series, which is I think the first three parts is I don't remember how many pages. Is it 245 pages? It's pretty long. I'm an educator, so I educate. Well, what is weather modification? What are stratospheric aerosol injections? What's solar radiation management? There's actually some good applications for weather modification and geoengineering. Some people don't know, but there are actually good applications. It's not like all
Yeah.
nefarious and evil. So I present the information as simple as I can so people can understand it, because it's a very complex topic. So, but I raise a lot of questions too, and a lot of my questions at the end of part three, I just do it's almost like a court document. I do a whole bunch of bullet point statements of facts of things that are not addressed yet, and these are very concerning, like the ownership of NAV Canada, and what have they been spraying
Yeah,
for 10
many
years over
questions to ask.
Quebec?
Yeah.
Like what the hell,
Yeah, many regulations to review, and about the aerial sector. It's a full federal. It's a federal competency. Responsabilité fédérale d'aviation. So
Yeah, I was told also, I'm in contact with a lawyer that was one of the most
We
famous
got to
cases
move to
I talk
Ontario
about.
soon.
Was that, sorry, Jason?
We got to move to Ontario soon. We were over time.
Oh, okay. Just what was I gonna say? I was just gonna say he told me that the air quality is a provincial issue in Canada, so I wasn't sure about that. I thought it was maybe federal. So I'm gonna look into that more too, because in my part four, I'm probably going to be doing open letters to probably the RCMP and maybe Sûreté du Québec, because like some of these things need like proper investigations or looking into. Like
yeah,
this
they're not
That
cannot continue
interested.
like that.
Yeah, and in Quebec province, by the way, the strike is ongoing right now. Big unions, and there is the COP 28 BS in Dubai, and one of the main comment ça, chef du syndicat, responsable syndicat.
Union leaders.
Yeah, the union leader went to the COP 28, but why are they going there? What are they
The
doing?
union leaders are going to COP to 28.
Yeah, yeah, and
Oh,
then
okay.
she had to come back because of well, it didn't pass well. They're on strike, in Quebec province right now. The massive strike that we saw since the 1980s. So we're talking about more than 460,000 people on strike in Quebec province.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big one. But so the union leader went to the COP 28 climate scam summit. So they had to come back. And maybe if you're following my tweets this week, you'll notice that we talked about COP 28 almost every day with the BBC.
Hmm.
We're against that, and we're for not just removing some carbon tax for the tractors, agricultors, anyway, but for everyone. We must
Right.
abolish all carbon taxes at all. That's it, and remove Canada from the Paris Accord. That's it. So we follow my tweets, and you see that again. So this is Canada first should be our main motive.
I like that. Yeah, Canada first for sure. And thank you very much, Quebec. You guys really filled my head up with a ton of information. I'm going to have to rewatch this segment to get most of it, but wow, great job. And to everybody that liked what Dan had to say, Dan's going to be on December 18th at 6 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And we're going to have him for an entire interview. So if you like what Dan's talking about, geoengineering, he gets into globalist stuff, he gets into the Rockefellers and Rothschilds and stuff like that. Tune in on December 18th and you'll see some more of Dan. Dan, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And Daniel, sorry we didn't have a ton of time today, but
okay.
I appreciate. Yeah, I know it was a great back and forth. I just sat back and listened because you guys were just having a
Sorry,
great
I
back
talk
and forth.
too much. I have
No,
a
no,
tendency to
no,
do
no.
that sometimes.
This is important, and
They
don't
both very
forget.
good, very good.
Yeah, don't forget to celebrate Christmas. So, put
Merry
your hand-
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and not maybe Merry something. So there's a religious holiday. Sorry to those people who don't like it, but like it or not, it will be Merry Christmas again.
C'est bon, very good. And maybe that's what you saw, Dan, in the sky. Maybe that was some tinsel for Christmas because God says Christmas exists in Quebec. Maybe we won't.
It
take
sure
anything
looked
off
like
the table.
tinsel, so like,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
that's
Okay,
probably
merci.
it then.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Salut, au revoir. Thank you very
Bonsoir,
much.
bonne soirée. Ciao.
We're head off to Ontario now. Thank you both very much. Hello, Donald, and hello, Miss Cece. How you doing? Long time no see. Both of you, actually. Both of you.
I'm still wearing the same shirt as I was this morning. I see you guys have still got the same.
Yep. Yeah.
If I would have had more time, I might have gone out and bought a red and black plaid shirt. I mean, it is our football team's colors, so it is kind of shameful that I don't even have these colors. Our CFL team, but in any event, they are the Red Blacks, and I don't have anything that's red and black.
No doubt. Yeah, I know. We have to make sure we do our outfits because people think we're deep fakes if we don't, because they're like, oh, they're the same each time. They're deep fakes for sure. Hey, Donald, how you doing, bud? How was the rest of your afternoon?
Oh, hey, I get to be on with Miss CC twice in one day. How about that?
Lucky you.
There we
Yeah,
go.
no, it's
There we
amazing.
go.
We're turning her into a star because she's already in contact with Viva Fry, and he's interested in having her on. So she's already left us. She's a star now.
Awesome.
It didn't take
Awesome.
long. Yeah, how did your afternoon go? Kind of moved along quick for you, didn't it?
It did. I was actually on the phone with Randy as well, just getting some updates for tomorrow. So if
Oh,
want
to
me
you,
go-
he's Randy. To us, he's Randy Hilliard.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I talked to him today, got some updates.
Great.
Did you want me to do that now?
Yeah, please go ahead. How's Randy
Oh.
doing, and how's his court matter?
Oh, right. So he's doing well. So tomorrow we're back in court. He's got another judicial pretrial. So we won't be allowed in. As you know, the last time we all came. Many people logged in online, and it was interesting because when we entered the room, I knew that there was, generally a closed session when it comes to judicial pretrials. But there is that exception that a judge can basically make any rule she wants and not follow any rule in the interest of justice. And that was that rule 2.01 that I had posted right thereafter. So Randy's back tomorrow at 2:15. When I spoke to him today, there has been a little bit of movement on his bail conditions between his conversations with the Crown. So this is good news. We will have a full comprehensive update tomorrow.
Okay.
That'll kind of, and there is going to be, so Brian Duty, he's been a legal counsel. I don't know if you're following my tweets, he was representing Guy Meister. He was a gentleman who was arrested at Rideau in Sussex.
Okay.
He was with Mike. So he was representing him, or is. He's also representing the individual. I don't know if you recall, I was tweeting about Robert Donnell. He'd had a medical emergency while we were in the courtroom.
Wow.
One of the Justice Weber was quite forceful with his legal counsel, who again is Brian Duty. But Brian knew what he was talking about. He was talking about corporeal and real property and arguing, how can you have mischief to space, basically is his argument. And so he's gone about it a different route. So all that to say is Brian is going to be sort of around with Randy and I tomorrow and moving forward. He is licensed. He's a lawyer. So the Crown shouldn't have too much objections to Mr. Duty, sort of being a friend of the court, help with note-taking that for Randy. I was denied that, even though I was granted it in a different matter with this same lawyer. So it was interesting that I was able to actually cross the bar and sit at the defense table with Brian Duty when he was doing the cross-examination of the Ottawa Police in the Guy Meister trial. So, that permission was granted. The Crown attorney was totally fine with it. So it just seems a little bit different.
Selective, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. So tomorrow afternoon, we'll have more sort of concrete information as to what the publication bans are going to be as well. That's kind of where we're at with making sure we don't say too much.
Welcome to Canada. We got nothing but publication bans. Okay, so we'll be looking forward to an update on some of your tweets tomorrow, or your Twitter or your X tomorrow about this, and you're going to be helping Randy, which is cool. And just to let everybody know, he's going self-represented now. He dropped his legal representation. He's going self-represented, which I think is 5D or 6D chess, because they're going to have to touch his bail conditions. They're going to have to modify them. They're going to have to remove some of them just so he can continue to be self-represented. I think he's doing a killer job. So I'm going to go to Dawn, and then we'll come back and hear maybe about Barber and Litch as well. Donald, you had
for that tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's busy in Ottawa for sure.
On the same day, which is so weird.
Yeah, they're trying to split you up. They know that we're covering all this stuff. They're trying to split you up. And then Donald, there was some movement on the Helen Gruss matter this week as well. Actually, a big revelation that you got. You want to share that again?
Okay, a couple of things happening. I will try not to be sort of verbose, but I do love talking to my friends. So here we go. Yeah. Detective Gruss. We have a decision from the Detective Gruss, Ottawa police detective, charged with discreditable conduct for daring to investigate the potential conflict or the potential connection between the mRNA vax and a bunch of dead babies. And they didn't want that to happen, so they charged her. They stopped her investigation. They charged her. She had a bunch of expert witnesses lined up. It's an internal charge, Police Services Act. And she had 3 medical experts, 1 police expert, and 1 legal expert lined up. And the court, the hearing officer, denied every single defense witness.
Did you hear that, Miss CC? All 5 expert witnesses denied.
Yeah. Look, it's a kangaroo court. It's so biased. I'll have a lot more to say about that in writing and on the show. That's the big news. Thanks to Jason Unraw for uncovering all of the legal documents that are out there. What a guy. I know he's going to be really tackling this too. And hey, he ain't no hack like me. He's a really legendary Canadian journalist, and I'm so happy he's taken an interest in this. Okay, I'm going to move on to Randy Hillier now. What a bunch of BS that he should have bail conditions. This grandfather who was an elected representative of provincial parliament, who is well known and respected for decades in the county where he lives, and he has worked tirelessly for human rights and taxpayer rights and landowner rights for 2 decades. And somebody said that he threw a fence at
Have
a
you
cop.
seen the video?
Yeah,
seen it?
he didn't. Okay, whoever testified that he threw a fence at the copper is a liar, perjured, obstructed justice, fabricated evidence, and I hope he goes to jail or she goes to jail for a long, long time. And what a strategy. Let him get up and say it under oath. Let him give the evidence and then show the video.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
What
my
a
understanding it was
bunch of
actually the
BS.
Crown. It was the Crown who sold this story at pre-trial.
Obstruct
Apparently
justice.
the Crown-
Obstruct justice. Misleading the court. Obstruct justice.
Yeah.
Do them.
Like
Cool.
Enough of this.
It's unfathomable. And what's even more unfathomable is the fact that he had spent $100,000 on legal fees to get here. Like
Right.
to get to where he is right now, which is nowhere more ahead. He's actually got maybe today, as we say this, he's more ahead than he was with a lawyer, because now some of his bail conditions maybe will allow him to remain in the city after court and actually have conversations with people who are able to assist him.
Yeah, there's a
It's-
few of them because they wouldn't even allow him to go to the court without a lawyer. And now he doesn't have a lawyer, so they're going to have to modify that one. And there's a whole list of people, and a lot of the names I recognize. But some of them he doesn't even know. Like, he's never met them. He has no history with them. But yet they're listed on there. They really just copied and pasted everybody that was from the freedom movement that had a charge of some kind or was a podcaster, because they even include podcasters on there.
Look, it was
for
all
the same way.
politically motivated. It was all
100%.
politically motivated.
It was to shut
there
him
was
up.
no
Shut him up.
evidence. Just like Detective Bruce when they wiretapped Detective Bruce and her family. Okay.
So gross.
Yeah.
Oh, it don't get me going. We'll never make it to Manitoba. But, here we go. Okay, look, I want to move on to another story. I heard what Dan Fournier said about NAV Canada, and it's a corporation. It's not a government agency, and it has so much power and influence and everything like that. Well, welcome to Ontario, because today we had a story break where the Toronto cops busted a multi-million-dollar auto theft ring. And wait a minute, it's Service Ontario employees who are involved. Now, what's Service Ontario, you might ask? Well, okay. You know how the government gives you their license plate and your driver's license, and you change your address with the government and all the rest of that? Well, that doesn't happen. You see, the government, they just hired some of their friends to do it. They set up private corporations, and they give them access to all the Ministry of Transport of Ontario records, your driving history, your address, who your family members are, search it by address, search your date of birth, know where you're getting your insurance, know your cell phone number, and all the rest of that. Know how many vehicles you have, where you keep them, what the vehicle identification number, the serial number on the vehicles are. They know all of that. So what were they doing? Well, these private employees were taking money, or were part of the gangs, and they would say, oh, you want a new M3 M3 BMW or something? Well, we'll find out which one was purchased newest. Oh yeah, that's over. That's Joe Black owns that. He's over on 123
Oh
Main Street.
wow.
Okay, and then they give them and they give them where it is and the VIN number and the whole works. They steal your car, and then they switch the VIN number on it. They go to a wreck because something was wrecked.
Oh
They take the
wow.
wreck out. They spot weld it in place. Whatever they do in place, they're very sophisticated. And then the private employees of Service Ontario, they put in the new VIN number, the new this, the new that. A new car arrives, and there you go. The wrecked car becomes brand new, but it's really yours, and it's not yours anymore. Okay. Now, there is no condition that the people who access this are Canadian citizens. Nope, none at all. As a matter of fact, they hire new and just arrived off the boat for minimum wage. All these places, they do it because they can, and they even get once in a while a little, to bring in the immigrants and have them, just like Tim Hortons does, and just like
Subsidized, yeah.
McDonald's does, and all the rest of that. Okay. And they have access to the data of Ontario citizens and Canadian citizens and all of that, and they misused it. Now, NAV Canada has the same thing with airplanes. And how many other purportedly government agencies? I mean, who knows that Service Canada is not an Ontario government agency? Most people assume they're an Ontario government agency. They're not. They're just a franchise. They're private. What else is being farmed out here? Okay. Enough.
Oh, OHIP. Got to look into OHIP. All your medical.
Sure. The whole works. Now, this may shock and surprise some of you, but when I was a police officer, I had access to all your Ministry of Transport data, didn't I? And
so do paralegals and lawyers, by the way.
There you go. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know that. For a lousy $50 a month and a promise that you won't share it with organized crime or your brother-in-law who's in the insurance business. There's all sorts of things. Okay. Why are we giving millions of citizens confidential information to people who are paying their employees $8 an hour plus a place to live?
Wow.
What's happening? Okay. So, let's start taking an interest in this. Heard what Dan Fournier had to say about NAV Canada. Why do we need so many government employees if they just farm it out? Why do we need to farm out, as the latest scandal in Ottawa with the Border app, right? The Border app, they farmed that out to somebody's house, and they made $9 million by farming it out again. What? We don't have government programmers? Okay.
Dude, you're not wrong. And boy, are you highlighting some problems this week for sure. I'm feeling the passion and I'm feeling the anger too. I am annoyed that there is no level. Yeah, you have. And I can hear that.
He says as he drinks out of his Cesus cup, and there's a story there too, folks. But anyway,
sure
we've had enough.
A microphone. There's a microphone in that cup.
By the way, how's the mic doing today? Is doing okay?
Great. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. You're hot. You're perfect.
I paid him off. It's okay.
That's what happened. Your cup was too close to the microphone, and the two microphones conflicted. Miss CC, what did you think of that information? You probably knew about the Service Canada auto theft ring, and then we also have Tamara and Barbara to talk about, and we also have extra 10 minutes because Manitoba hasn't arrived. So don't worry, you're not rushed. You have 10 minutes.
And on Donald's note about the Service Canada, did you happen to read the AG report today?
Well, it's a Service Ontario was that one, but I imagine it's all the same. Go ahead. Tell us about the AG's report.
They were saying that there was what was it? So drivers from urban cities, so like in Toronto, and I've actually had, after I tweeted it, I had a few people make comments. I guess there's a town a couple hours outside of Toronto that is getting bus loads of immigrants to a drive testing center, and they're passing their drive testing center because they're all connected in the same religious. I don't know if it's a mosque. I'm not sure which demographic it is, but they're all connected religiously. So they're all just driving out van loads, doing an 8-minute drive test, and getting their driver's license.
Yep.
And the AG report said that novice urban drivers who went to the rural testing centers were 16 to 27% more likely to have a serious car accident. So
Of course.
it goes to show that the ones who were sneaking to skirt the system were obviously very self-aware of their lack of driving abilities, hence the desire to go to a small town where there may not get over 60 or 80 kilometers, let alone have to merge onto a highway or parallel park in between two cars. It probably doesn't happen in those areas. So I found that interesting. So it does kind of speak to the Service Canada scams. There's just so many scams in Ontario. And again, it's this whole Doug Ford. I mean, he's a conservative, and everyone's praying for Pierre to save us in the next election. But I mean, did anyone read this AG report? Like, I live in a conservative province, and we have a conservative kind of wrecking it, to be honest. And
look, this scam goes way past the
it's
this
years,
conservative
decades.
government.
That's
I
right.
mean, the pay-for-play driver's tests have been around for 50 years, and they do some undercover work once in a while. Some of my colleagues in the police got involved with that. But the whole deal is, why don't we have government? I mean, if the government's going to run it, why shouldn't the government just run it? Right?
If you're gonna
Why
run
should
it,
we
run it.
farm it out?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, why are they farming so much out? Like, I'm trying to understand, is it your go answer? Like, you're laughing, Donald.
It's to circumvent employment law. It's to circumvent
Is that what it
employment
is?
law. Yeah. So there's no pension,
Union and
there's
everything
no
like that.
benefits.
But also,
yeah.
Are they not unionized
How-
with Service Canada? Or
how
Service Ontario?
difficult is it to
Private.
get a Service Ontario franchise? It's very difficult because it's guaranteed money. Okay. So they tend to be dispensed politically. They really, really are. Okay. And that's the same reason why Ontario will not, at this point in time, dismantle the LCBO and make it private. They say it's for our safety, and they're concerned that we're going to be alcoholics and all the rest of that, or whatever they're concerned about. But Alberta seems to do just fine, doesn't it?
And Quebec.
And Quebec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
I
our
hear
troubles. We have our troubles. There's a lot of drinking and driving out here. It's kind of an issue.
But I
Right,
don't
but
think
that's not
because
a that's not a
there's
sales
alcohol at the
issue.
store.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
No,
I
it's
don't-
not a sales issue. But go ahead, Miss
I don't
Cece.
think that's correlated to this. Do you think it's correlated to the fact that you can drive to a store and just grab it?
Here in Alberta,
Yeah.
it's cultural. It's cultural. A lot of remote people, a lot of urban people. It's cultural out here.
It's a cultural thing. Okay. Because I know Quebec, I mean, it's the same thing. You could go to the corner store and it was always cheaper. So, I mean, living in Ottawa, if cases of beer went on sale, you drove over to Quebec and you loaded up your car and you drove them back just because it would be so much cheaper. And when
Right.
when you're a young kid in your 20s, and it was funny because we did that for years and I didn't even know it was illegal.
No, fair enough. But now, speaking of legal, there's Chris and Tamara. They have some stuff starting up tomorrow, and they
Yeah,
had some
so
movement
it's
last week.
Yeah, that's just a continuation of the submissions to have the Carter application dismissed.
Right.
And
Okay.
and this really hurts my brain because I would love to know the legal bill just for arguing that one charge. Like, are you serious? Like, they argued an entire week. So tomorrow,
Just for the Carter application.
just for the Carter application,
Oh,
just
wow.
for the conspiracy aspect. So, my brain hurts because I don't understand how Tamara is even charged because I don't. There was literally no evidence against her, and I sat there every day. It was Chris with the PLT, Chris with TikTok, Chris with Facebook, Chris, and then the
Mhm.
18 other factions or 13, whatever the number is, and the Pack Kings and the different little groups that were the Farfadas and all the different groups that were out there. I actually don't understand how Tamara's case even made it past pretrial. I don't. I have no, everything I've learned in school, there was no evidence.
Right. And I didn't
I-
hear any either when I was in there for that week.
You wouldn't even heard her name.
Mhm.
So they're trying to get this conspiracy charge, and the Carter application is used to go around the hearsay rule. So normally, if you're text messaging between two and you can correct me if I'm wrong, two co-accused, that's hearsay unless they're looking for a conspiracy charge. And when they're looking to have them in a conspiracy, this is where the exception to the hearsay rule comes in, and this is done via a Carter application. Did I get that right?
It sounds familiar. I can't really say. I think so. You
Okay,
looked
yeah.
into it a little bit more than I have, but it sounds familiar.
Yeah, okay. So I'm pretty confident that's what it is. So I'm not sure why they were so bent on having this charge removed. I guess it's direct verdict, but I mean, you just wasted five days when we know there was no evidence of that, so they wouldn't have been found guilty of it. So why spend 5 days, wasting? I don't know. So all that to say is the defense hasn't even started. So Magus has an hour tomorrow between 1 and 2. Tamara and Chris will appear via Zoom. There's no need for them to fly back for that 1 hour. And then I guess we'll be picking up in the new year when the defense will start. But I mean,
Wow.
what a joke. Like, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And this is where I'm going to bring Donald back in, because grand jury would have meant tomorrow wasn't there. I believe it wouldn't have gone past the grand jury if we still had those, Sir Don. You want to remind people why we might want to see if we can get those back?
Sure. A grand jury simply is like a big jury that approves the charges after they're laid. So in other words, right now we have, we used to have preliminary hearings where the police would charge someone, and then it would go before a judge, and the Crown would present its evidence, and the defense has a chance to say, look, there's really no case here, throw it out. But in the old days, which isn't so old, it's back mid-70s in Ontario anyway, they had grand juries, which I believe were 20 to 22 people. And if someone was charged with a fairly serious offense, the Crown would come in, present the evidence, and ask for the approval to continue to lay the charge. A lot of times, the grand jury wouldn't approve because they knew it was politically motivated, or the Crown just had a shoddy case, because that happens. So it's a safety valve to keep the quality of prosecutions up there, but also to prevent misuse of law enforcement and the judicial system, the justice system, against political opponents or that business rival that you want to take out, and you're on the police commission, so you said to someone, do them. You don't think that happens? All the time.
For sure.
So we got rid of that purportedly to make everything efficient, and now it's very efficient, for the political powers to weaponize law enforcement and the justice system against political opponents. And that's exactly what we have here with Randy Hillier, with the Coots accused, with
Pat
Detective
King.
Bruce, Pat King. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And our friend Jeremy McKenzie too, and the Queen of Diagolon, and all the rest of that. So it's all political, and this happens because the people who have positions of authority, right from the fourth class police constable all the way up to the chief and the crown attorneys, the AG, they don't follow rule of law. They don't adhere to their oath of office. They just do whatever the powers that be tell them. We might as well be living in Mumbai, India. I really mean that.
And on
Yeah.
that note, Miss Cece, you have any final comments before we move on?
On nope, that should be good.
All right.
And I love Mumbai, India. I really do. I love them. I love them all there.
It's on my list of places I'm dying to visit. I just want to see that many people.
But
Like,
if you want corruption, it's Mumbai.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, yeah. I've been to Saigon, so I've seen a lot of moving vehicles. So I think Saigon is my busiest to date. But I would like to go to Mumbai just to experience it. I have driven in Paris. That was something someone just needs to try. And I have videos of that event. That was pretty exciting. I think I almost had a heart attack.
Oh my!
I think I actually made the person I was traveling with drive. She's an Ottawa paramedic, so I was like, "You drive. You're used to bad drivers in Ottawa. You get behind the wheel." So, I would love to go to Mumbai again, just to see all those, just to see all the vehicles.
Bring money, let someone else drive. Yep.
Yeah, I would. Yes, a local. I mean, even in China. I mean, even like. Whew, you know, some of those quite populated areas, and like those tuk-tuks and the motorcycles and the cars and the bicycles and the bodies, and you're just like, it's a game of Frogger. It's a game of Frogger, and you try to get through. But I gotta be honest, being a Caucasian in Asia, you're pretty safe crossing the road at any time, because they will slam on the brakes and not hit you. They will not hit a white person. They're like terrified of hitting a foreigner. When I lived in South Korea, I had my own vehicle, and I was in this small town, and I mean, they would just like move out of the way. They knew my Damas. That was the name of the vehicle, Damas. I used to call it dumbass, but anyways.
She thinks it's deference why they moved out of the way. She was just dangerous, and they could see her coming a mile away.
That's right. That's right.
Driving on the wrong side. Yeah.
I did actually one day have a carton of eggs in my car, because the driving is really bad in South Korea at times, that they will almost kill you. So sometimes having eggs to alert them, because they can't hear the horns, because there's so many horns honking through intersections. They have no idea who's honking at them. So yeah, no. Yeah. So those eggs might have actually been the reason why, when we talked earlier about needing a case of soju and ramyun to smooth the police over, that may or may not have been that incident in 2000.
Oh wow!
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna have to follow up on those stories. Yeah, you take care, Donald. Thank you, Ontario. Hey, Miss CC, second time today, you knocked it out of the park. And do you know when we can expect to maybe see you on Viva? Have you figured that out yet?
Yeah. So I talked to him. He was looking for an after court tomorrow, and then I replied saying I'm at his scheduling what he thinks is best. I mean, I think Friday would be good. Give me a minute to like absorb and kind of figure out my wording and what I want to talk about. But if he wants me on the spot right after, then we'll do it that way as well. But yeah, we're texting.
Wonderful. Well, don't forget about us little guys on your way up. You can make that climb up that ladder. But thank you, Miss CC. You're awesome. I enjoyed our banter this afternoon on in our DMs, and yeah, looking forward to it. You're an awesome person. Thank you.
Thanks again. Honestly, thanks for having me. You've broadened my horizons, and I'm very grateful. And Donald, you will forever be in my memories as well.
Absolutely. And we got some hate over a choice of words over your moments too. My gosh, this world is weird sometimes. But
You know,
look, love
and
ya.
it's funny too, because like I'm gonna go along with it because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But again, I was EMS in the 90s, and if you were a woman in EMS in the 90s, you kind of had to be a little bit more drop the F-bombs, more like one of the guys. Right, Donald? Like it's fair. Like there weren't as many women, especially paramedics and firefighters in the mid 90s as there are now. So I think that being, so young when I was around so many men, I mean, lighten up, ladies,
No kidding. Yeah. It's the world we're in. If that's the worst that they can find from you, we're doing right. We're doing
We're
right.
good.
doing
We're
right.
good. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for the cherry pop for all those listening.
You have yourself a great evening. Thank you very much. Great first day for hitting online. You're a star. You're a natural. We'll see some more of you. Take care, Miss CC. Bye.
Thank you.
Yep. And then take care, Donald. We'll see you tomorrow morning, my brother. Bye. Hey, Zach, you got a couple extra minutes for Saskatchewan. Yeah. So we kind of skipped Manitoba. We were going to do a Greg Arcade song, but I'll save that to the end because I'd much rather kind of just bleed into your time an extra couple minutes here.
Sure.
How you doing? It's been a busy week for you.
Yeah, it has. I had a couple of good shows on my podcast, a couple of really good conversations over the last little bit. Lots of conspiracy stuff, which I'm like right down to talk about. But yeah, it's been.
I got somebody for
good.
you then. Go back and check our Quebec guy. We got a new guy named Dan. Check him out. You should have him on.
I was listening to that, so I'll reach out to him and see if I can get him on in the new year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he would be great on your show. I'd absolutely watch. And by the way, I love that interview with Island Jason. He's one of my favorite people, and I love watching.
He's in the chat. Shout out to Island Jason. It was a really good conversation.
Yeah, it was really good. And thanks for the love from both of you. I appreciate that. And who won the T-shirt this month? Who won the shirt?
Yeah, you did. So the Stay Free shirt will be on the way next week. Once I get it in the mail here. So, but yeah, it's exciting times on the Schmidt House podcast. There's been a lot to talk about. It seems like Saskatchewan right now is on the forefront of lots of like, not really super scandals, but just like things that it's like, how is Saskatchewan getting away with some of this stuff too? But then you hear stories about like what's coming out of Ontario, and it's just like, okay, we're not that bad. We're not that bad.
When you're comparing, like they got heavy corruption there in the Service Ontario, and they're stealing cars and changing VINs, and oh my gosh! And that was just one story. The AG came out with another one, like. Ontario, they're setting that standard, or they're lowering that bar over there.
Well, it's crazy times here because it's like Saskatchewan, I think, and Miss Cece kind of hit the nail on the head too. Is like for lots of these things when you're looking at like we're run by a conservative government, and that should give you a pass of some sort to try to like get rid of some of like the corruption and the problems. But it's like we're just seeing it like right now. The big conversation around Saskatchewan is Scott Moe going to that COP20 or whatever it is in Dubai, and the government spending $1 million on it. One of the mayors of the mayor of Regina went there as well. And that was a whole little thing that kind of caused a bit of a ruckus around Regina. But it's like when we look at specifically that and the messaging coming from Scott Moe and the government it's all just like virtue signaling, goals of sustainable development, all of that messaging. And it's like, how can we come back to like Saskatchewan and this is our leadership. These are the people that are going to, get in next time around. Because it's just like people are complacent and you get afraid of the boogeyman of the NDP and you're willing to sign a deal with the devil for another 4 years and nothing's going to get better. We just kick the can down the road. So I'm really hoping that through a couple of things that we've seen over the last year out of the Scott Moe Sask party, that people are looking to have a change. And, we're less than a year away from a general election in Saskatchewan. So, and lots of speculation saying that it could be called in the spring as well. So we could hopefully, enough people are noticing and seeing the writing on the wall and saying, let's try something different. So, but yeah, I'm not particularly optimistic on that though.
Oh my! And then we also had a decision. I think it was a week or so ago about the guns. The Supreme Court. I know you've been following that one. And I think we lost. Right? We lost that decision.
Yeah, the CCFR lost in court, so I know they put through an appeal. I saw something about it today. I think there was an article written about the appeal. I didn't read it. I didn't have time this afternoon, but yeah, so they lost. So it basically and our who is David Lamenti? What's his position?
Minister of
Minister of Justice. Is that
yes, he was.
okay? So he said when this whole thing was kind of going into the courts and the CCFR was, going to try to protect personal property, he straight up said you have no right to personal property.
Right.
So anybody paying attention, it's like if this is the opinion of the government, it's also going to come out through the courts. So I wasn't really optimistic once this was all going through the courts that it was going to end positively for gun owners. But yeah, and obviously the findings of the court found that we don't have any right to property, and it's one of those like slippery slopes where it could end devastatingly bad, because today it's guns, and the next
Mhm.
time it's SUVs, and then after that it's your house. And so this is a major thing that I think more people need to be paying attention to. And like another side of the coin too is like the taxation behind some of the properties that you already do own, right? I'm of the point of view that any monetary fund that goes to the government is a form of taxation. So even such things such as licensing, gun owners say licensing leads to registration, and registration leads to confiscation. And
Right.
guess where we are. But it's the same thing. I've seen lots of people actually have this conversation on social media recently, is looking at it's like, what happens if you stop paying your property taxes? Like, you're actually paying, not only do you not own your home, the bank owns it, but all of a sudden you stop paying property taxes to your municipality, and guess what, they take away as well. So it's like all of those things kind of added up. We really don't have any right to property, and it's kind of like this is something that if I was to reopen the charter, I would definitely put something in there. Even go back to the convoy days where they're basically saying that they're going to take your trucks, take your businesses, deny your insurance, and all of a sudden take away everything that you had because you're parked on Wellington, right? So this issue specifically around that should be a huge eye opener to Canadians. And the fact that you don't have any right to property, the government can come take anything that they want, and then it's the burden of proof is on you to prove whether or not you can actually have it. It's ridiculous.
Now, I had a guest on, I think it was Friday, for UNDRIP whistleblower, and I really haven't dropped into UNDRIP prior to that episode, and it's still bothering me. And I think this is what we're seeing here, because it's taking away property. That's actually to take away your land. So we're well on to that track of guns, like you mentioned, SUV, but property is well on that path as well. They just need to say, and a group objects to it. Like, there's all these rules I'm starting to learn about. And by the way, to let everybody know, on the 19th of December, 4 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have Ron Valiant on. Apparently, he's a bit of a UNDRIP expert. I believe he's in Alberta. He's in the PPC party, and he's got a lot of information on UNDRIP. So I'm going to be following up on that on the 19th. But have you been following that, and did you catch that episode? Because this is going to be along the same lines. They're coming after the guns, they're going to come after your property, and this is a way to take over rural areas, from what I was understanding on the episode on Friday.
Yeah, I haven't been paying close attention to it. I only caught about 10 minutes of that show that you did. I actually have it. I have it in an open tab that I want to go finish it, because it's something that I'm not as well researched on, but it's something I think I really should know about. I get the gist of what it is, and but like it's one thing that kind of goes along where it's just like this seeping level of communism that's taking over, and it's just little concessions along the way. Like if you look at things such as like land acknowledgement, I was driving around the city with my kids today, and I heard a public a public awareness thing from the radio station, recognizing that they're broadcasting from Treaty 4 land, and they acknowledged all of like the traditional nations that lived in Treaty 4 and blah blah blah. It's just like we have radio stations that are virtue signaling this stuff. It's in every school. It's wherever you go. All of a sudden, it's like we have to acknowledge the land before you play a football game. You have to acknowledge this, and it's like it's those little concessions that are trying to make it more palatable to be able to bring in something like UNDRIP and communism. And like that's the mystery of what the globalists want has been out in front. They've openly said like a couple of years ago, you will own nothing, you'll be happy. There's a whole marketing campaign behind it. So it's no mystery that this stuff is happening. It's just how do you convince people that are afraid to speak out, that this is going to be something that ends really, really badly for them. You know, I actually saw a tweet before coming on. It was kind of made me laugh, but it's like it was something along the lines of like, I'm going to become a racist now just because I'm going to be called one anyways, or something like that. So it's just like you're forcing people's hand into acting subversively because of the way that you're acting. Like, I don't like believe that I'm a racist person, but you know what, my opinions on UNDRIP might, to your normie person, you know, peg me as a racist. You wear one of these things, you might get pegged as a racist. So it's like, I'm also kind of in agreement. So it's like almost just time to lean into it, because you're going to get called those names anyways. You're going to be tried to be canceled, you know, and you're ultimately going to lose everything. So why not try to put up a little bit of resistance, because they're going to try to destroy your lives anyways.
Well, they're taking a step further, more than just name calling. They're actually doing organizations where they sit down and tell you, like in school or even in boardrooms now, white privilege is a problem. You have to acknowledge your white privilege. You have to acknowledge all the pain and suffering that your white privilege created. In other words, they're creating racism right there. And now we're starting to see a lot more violence on white children in schools now. And this is starting to really become a trend, especially over the States too. And I saw some in Canada. Jeremy, he has a few of these videos on his Rage not too long ago, where white children are being singled out because of their privilege and being attacked, and nobody's really helping them. They're just getting the beats. And that's going to cause an actual fear of the other side, because they're actually being violent, and that's going to create a real type of racism. Not because we're being name called and I think it's being diluted, the name, you may as well lean into it. It's because I also think that they're actually directly attacking our race. And what's the response to your race being attacked? Well, you're going to be upset with the people doing it, and then that's going to be typed like almost textbook racism. Now, I'm not calling for racism. I'm just saying it looks like we're going to be painted into a corner with some of these programs, and it's going to create a reaction, and that reaction itself would traditionally be considered racist. And I'm worried about that. Are you seeing that?
I definitely I'm familiar with those videos. I see them all the time as well.
It's heartbreaking.
But oh, it is, and it's like every single time I see something like that, it just reaffirms my decision of homeschooling is to get away from lots of that stuff and really raise my kids, not avoiding, I guess, or like sheltering them, like not in that sense, but it's just like, why would you subject your kids to something like that? You know, an inner city public school where they're told that they're racist the entire time, and then they get the shit kicked out of them because of the color of their skin. And the entire time, the white people are the ones that are saying, you know, like, we have to be welcoming and we have to bring these people here and we have to, you know, keep our mouths shut, but they can, you know, do actions like that. It's really ridiculous. But no, like, you're completely right. The more that that people allow these things to happen, or say that it's okay, or ignore the problem, it just is going to fester and make it a lot worse. And you know, Saskatchewan, I think, is not innocent in lots of this stuff too. It's propagated by our government in the same way. You know, for if you look at Saskatchewan's crime stats, and we have some very ugly crime stats, especially in the last little bit here. But like it's a disproportionate amount of First Nations people that are incarcerated. Now, is that because it's systemic racism and we're seeking those people out to be able to put them in jail because we don't like the color of their skin or anything like that? Or are they naturally committing, you know, above and beyond the proportional representation for their race and their ethnicity? Are they committing more crimes that represents that properly? And it's not true. It's disproportionate. So this has been a problem that's been around for years and years and years. I know some people that work within the prison system, you know, as guards and counselors and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's a revolving door with the way that it is. You know, it slaps on the wrist because of the color of your skin. You know, it's all of these things, but then we're also supposed to have all of this truth reconciliation stuff like that. And like I was mentioning before, ads on the radio from the radio station recognizing that they're on the airwaves, on invisible radio waves, that they have to acknowledge the land that they're broadcasting on. I don't know. The problem is, I think, just going to persist, and like there's tons of other things that are going wrong in Saskatchewan, just from oversight of this whole woke culture. I said this last night with my guest because I was kind of just explaining who the Sask Party actually is. So the Sask Party was a combination between the Progressive Conservatives, which I joked and said that was an oxymoron. Which it kind of is,
It is,
because
though.
you have
It really is.
progressive and conservative are opposite ideals. But anyways, so
Correct.
the Progressive Conservatives combined with the Liberals to be able to get to force out the NDP. They were successful, and that's where the Sask Party came from. But it just seems that the liberal ideology was the one that was more dominant in that amalgamation, and it's really rearing its ugly head. And you see the whole thing about like the transgender ideology that Saskatchewan's been battling with for the last 6 months here. Everybody that loves to read headlines and not actually understand what's going on has been praising Scott Moe and the government for the Parental Bill of Rights.
Right. To break that down.
Bill 137, right? Everybody is so excited about this. But Scott Moe has also said that he's not going to enforce any of that legislation. He's going to leave it up to the school boards. Well, guess where lots of this programming came from? The school boards, right? So it's and his fear is that he's going to get canceled by the left. Well, like conservatives, small c conservatives, I think really have to have a conversation with themselves and say, like, we need to stop trying to be liked by people that hate us and aren't going to vote for us anyway.
Correct.
Be
We
brave
care too much
and
about
actually exactly, like they really do. And it's a problem because you're just going to keep making concessions and then all of a sudden have no teeth to actually fight back against woke ideology because you're afraid of the people that hate you. And you want to be liked by them, and it's a really weird situation. But yeah, so the people that are making lots of these not legislations, the requirements for teaching and stuff like that within the school boards, they're the ones that are supposed to be enforcing this new legislation. It just makes no sense. And then to go one step further too, and I posed this to one of the freedom groups that I'm a part of. So when we have school board elections and stuff like that, which the right is very concerned about trying to get out there and take back that ground, and same with like municipal elections and things like that. So they're trying to get in there. And Scott Moe just gave the biggest ammunition to the left to be able to get out in full force with the backing of the
correct, because he told them
he wasn't going to enforce it. So the school boards are going to be a huge battle here in Saskatchewan because of the feckless leadership of Scott Moe. So all of a sudden, you're going to have the left with a huge axe to grind, and they're really going to put a lot of effort. They're backed by the unions. The small c conservatives are not. So it's like that is going to be absolutely huge. Battleground here. It's not just, and those are elections that not a lot of people pay attention to. You might know your MLA, but I doubt who is on the school board.
Correct.
You might not even know your kid's principal, right? But this is where this battleground is going to take place. Instead of having a strong foundation for lots of this stuff, and again, like the transgender issue is just one of the various problems that's we're facing here at that specific level. But yeah, so that's going to be a big problem. And I know that there is a big attempt to try to take back the municipalities as well, specifically Regina and Saskatoon. And there's a group in Regina that I've been paying attention to, and it's backed by the neocon establishment of the Conservative Party and the Sask Party. Both have made extreme concessions towards what we've been talking about as far as the transgender ideology, but they're the ones that's going to want to come in and make the fix, right? And I hear this lots in the freedom groups as well, where they're like, we can't be behest to someone else who doesn't share our ideology, or we don't want someone else to be able to have control of us. We want real people in there and freedom fighters and all this stuff, but give me money from big con so that I can get elected. And then all of a sudden, guess who's going to want to pull your strings, right? It just doesn't work. And I think that like the people on the right are in a very, very, it's almost like gut check time. Like, are you wanting to just be the establishment and the neocons and the people that have been making this equally as bad as the liberals have by allowing lots of this stuff? Or do you actually want to get in front of this and make it actual change? Because you can't hold both of those beliefs at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. And I think that's probably where, to look federally, where the PPC gets so much hate.
And you know what? Each time I talk to you, and each time we go through this each week, I slide a little bit closer to anarchist, a little bit each time, because I'm like, oh man, I'm getting so frustrated. So Mo comes out, grandstands for parents, but has no teeth, and then actually just created a bigger problem because he put the battle into the school boards now. And I think you're absolutely right. You're going to see a whole bunch of left go in there too. Another realization, Zach, and maybe you can help me. Maybe I'm wrong on this. I'm not sure. I traditionally felt that the freedom movement was conservative. I'm not finding that, to be honest with you. Some segments of the freedom movement acts very lefty, cancel culture, things like that. It's takes some of the same playbooks as we see from the liberal side of things, vilifying people, canceling, all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to go through this bit of a transition in my mind here that just because we're on freedom doesn't mean we're all conservative. We're just a bunch of people who absolutely disagree with what the government's doing. We want to fight for freedom, but we're actually a mix. We might be a large group of conservative, but not fully conservative, which is also causing a lot of fraction in the freedom movement, not because of those ideologies. It's just because of the playbooks. The playbooks are different. The left will absolutely do things that we wouldn't do. It's not the way we play. But we're seeing that in the freedom movement. Am I wrong, or am I just being sensitive to some recent events?
No, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. There's 2 points I'm going to make on that. So the first one is, I think there's a lot of like libertarian minded conservatives that are probably more on the spectrum of libertarian than they are conservative, right? If you're looking like, because this is something that people ignore. So you have your left, right, your x-axis, right? And you have your authoritarian libertarian on the y-axis.
Right. It's a quadrant.
And that's something that exactly, and a lot of people kind of forget that, and you can kind of like overlap it a little bit if you needed to kind of make it for simplicity's sake, where the left would be more authoritarian and the right would be more libertarian. That's usually how they kind of get away from that type of description of people. But I think there's a large swath of people that are on the libertarian side, and this is where it's like they still might even vote conservative, like the CPC or SAS party. But they're libertarian minded. They just want to be left alone more so than a staunch conservative with like traditional conservative values. The other section of it, I think, is your social conservatives, which are actually like they have this same mentality and the ideology of like your progressive leftist authoritarians, but they just have a different point of view on what they actually want, right? So they want to have a heavy-handed state outlaw abortion. They want a heavy-handed state to be able to have the transgender and gender ideology. Like they want a heavy-handed government to be able to enact their will upon people. That's where social conservatism is, and
Right.
it's the same mentality as lots of the people on the left that conservatives traditionally don't get along with. They have the exact same mentality, just a different opinion of what they want done. Whether the progressives want is non-binary and no gender and all of this other stuff, open access to abortion, open access to free drugs. Social conservatives don't want open access to drugs and things like that. So it's just like, it's almost like the exact opposite, but the same ideology within it. So those are, I think, are competing things. And like the other thing I think maybe also muddies this up a little bit is when you have the Overton window shifting so far left, and then the conservatives that are willing to go along with it to capture votes, you're going to get leftists into your party that want, one, leftist ideology, and two, they want to be able to control the conversation there, because they're like, you have to work for our votes. So they know that they actually have power. So whenever the conservative parties shift left to be able to get votes, you also get that leftism seeping in. And I think that is for sure evident for the history within what the SAS party, how it started and where their base like eventually traveled to over the last 15 years, give or take, last 15 years, to be able to capture those leftist votes, to be able to remove the power from the NDP. The SAS party pretty much has a super majority right now, but they don't cater to the conservatives. And, like federally, you see this with the CPC, where Pierre Poilievre says he's not going to actually do anything that was voted on in the convention. He has no will to actually do it. So for lots of those, yeah, he said that right after. He said that, when they're voting about the gender issue, or it was like
Yeah.
73 or something like that, was against lots of the gender ideology that's been pushing. He said, I have no reason to actually enforce that. And the same thing with like aspects of the CPC constitution. It's the exact same thing. So it's like, when we actually look at how we're going to be able to get out of these problems here, I don't think that you can trust the neocon establishment, the grifters within the freedom movement that don't actually have any type of shared ideology. It's just kicking the can down the road, and we're going to be sitting here in 4 years having the exact same conversation. Last night I had a little bit of a conversation about Western separation, and it's like that, I think, is something that should be on the forefront as far as people in Saskatchewan, as far as people within Saskatchewan go. But when we actually try to have those conversations, it's like the neocon establishment, SAS party, can throw some bread and breadcrumbs to their base, and then all of a sudden it's like, we can't have that conversation for another 4 years, or there's not enough pressure to be able to shift that narrative. So it's something that I think is worth having a conversation about, and especially like between the problems that Alberta is having right now with the federal government. It's like Saskatchewan and Alberta should be talking about Western separation like in their own legislatures. It's just something that, and even if it doesn't happen, at least you have those ideas being out there. But I think everybody's more or less just afraid to actually put something like that out there because they're going to be smeared as being a separatist or something like that.
Okay, let's go redraw those lines, Zach. I'm with you now. Don't tread on me. I'm going to order the flag tomorrow. I'm getting there, brother. I'm getting there. Maybe TJ will help me make the decision or not. We're about to find out as we move to Alberta. But oh my gosh, I'm disappointed with Mo, and I'm really disappointed with Pierre for that comment. Look, I know he's going to be difficult when he wins, if he wins, whatever, but I really don't like those kind of comments. That and a straight pride shirt issue that he didn't handle well. And I can't look at apples the same way. I eat my apples differently.
One last point on Pierre, though, which is kind of, I think, just extremely ironic, is like, I don't think conservatives actually they say they want to get Trudeau out and are willing to take the gamble that he might be the exact same as Trudeau, but you don't have to stare at Trudeau's face for 4 years. But if Pierre's polling as well as he is, and he actually gets in with a majority, we're stuck with 4 more years of a potential Trudeau disaster. You know what I mean?
Right.
If the PPC and if the people, the dissident right, are correct about their assessment of the CPC, it could be just as disastrous as the Liberals. And I think the conservative base is just walking right towards it.
Oh, damn. Okay, you're right. I'm going to be tuning into your interview tomorrow. Who do you have tomorrow?
Oh, I don't have any tomorrow. Anyone tomorrow.
Okay, who's your next one?
Tom Razzo on the 9th at 12:30 Central.
Good guest. And what's your topic?
It'll be he's probably going to talk about his book for a little bit, talk about the Freedom Convoy and that type of stuff. It should be a pretty good one. I haven't had anyone on like his side of the Freedom Convoy on before, so it should be a good conversation.
Excellent. Yes, enjoy that one. Tom's a great guy. Say hi for me. And yeah, man, I'm gonna have to go and I don't drink, but I might make a stiff drink now. I'm a little
Sorry
depressed.
to black pill you.
No, don't worry. This is exactly what we're here for. And I think there's a few other people that might join me. Cheers to those that do later. Okay, Zach, I'm gonna have to now go to TJ. And we'll see. Are we going to continue this decline to separation, or is there some good news? We'll find out. Thanks, Zach. You have yourself a great day.
You too.
Bye. Hey, TJ. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going, my friend?
Going really good. Going really good. By the way, I love those photos you put up today. Your photo from 2015 or something like that from the Toronto area. Yeah, those are some good pictures. Actually, while you're introducing yourself, I'm going to go pull those up to show people.
Sure.
But yeah, go ahead and let everybody know who you are.
I'm TJ. I'm a photographer, a documentary photographer, and now a filmmaker working on a couple of projects I'm excited if there's time to talk about. But other than that, just fallen in love with rural Alberta. I am an Eastern immigrant. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Came out from Toronto in 2021 to Edmonton, and then from Edmonton to Valley View, Alberta, Northern Alberta here in 2022. Have been here for just over a year now, and I'm madly in love with the place, raising my 2 children here with my wife and my senior dog. And so we're just loving life out here.
Yeah, don't feel bad. I get called all the time. You're just some guy from Ontario that came to Alberta. But hold on, I was actually born in Manitoba. I spent half my life in the West, and then I went over to the East to kind of learn the tricks of the trade. You got to learn your enemy. I went over there to take a closer look and see what's going on, and then I brought it all back. So I think I'm a patriot. I'm a West patriot, and then people should respect that. But don't worry. Yeah, you went to the now. Were you born out east and you moved out here, or what's?
Oh yeah,
story there?
yeah. Lifelong Ontarian.
So you escaped. You escaped. Then.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. Lost my job like countless others to the vax mandates, and well, I technically didn't lose it. Walked away from it before they can fire me for it, and then came out to the only place that made sense, which is of course Alberta, and so that was 2021. Now, the one thing I noticed is a lot of people here think Ontario and Easterners hate Alberta. And I like to say they don't really think about you at all.
Yeah, that's right. They forget you even there.
They just care about Ontario. Right? Yeah. I mean, they say Winnipeg, around Winnipeg is actually the physical center of Canada, but I really, Ontario really feels that kind of they are. So they don't really think about what's going on outside. And no offense to anybody else, there's enough problems in Ontario. I can't say that I blame them really.
No, fair enough. And when I moved out there, it was late 1999 or so. There was a lot of commercials. I think it was Ford or something, a Ford dealership there. And they would keep reinforcing that Toronto is the center of the universe and stuff like that. And they actually do have that kind of mindset. But maybe shows like this will help broaden their mind. We got a lot of people that watch from Ontario. We got a really good support out there. And there's definitely a lot of people who are fighting against that Ford government, a conservative government. So
yeah. Let me tell these guys, and I'm really trying really hard to get like the good-minded people out here, and it costs.
Let's recruit.
Oh, dude, there was a gentleman who just bought a 80-acre property here just outside on the outskirts of town for $309,000. There's 14 acres, 20 acres, $140,000 to $200,000. For massive amounts of land that you don't even have to work the land yourself. You can rent it out to a farmer. They can go cut hay on it and pay. They
do that here. Yep.
It is absolutely insane. If you own a house in Ontario, sell it, come out here and get something that's 100x whatever you're living in there, and the quality of life is
way better. I will attest to that completely. This is exactly what we did, and I know of 30 acres in the Breton area. That's beautiful. It's got a duck pond. It's got animals. It's got the deer. You can shoot a moose or two. Alberta's a place to be for sure. Now, one of the things that we are struggling with on the conservative side of things, if we want to call it that, is culture. But yet we got people like you who's actually tackling it on because you're doing documentaries, you're working on that. And let me bring forward some of your art here, some of your photography.
Sweet.
There we go.
Hey.
So why don't you let people know where this came from? And wow, I really like the one on the right and the left. Like I can't pick a favorite one because the TD Bank logo on that cup, I think is perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. As the little right up there says, I was when I lived in Toronto and was a single guy, and I just got my first camera for Christmas from my parents, my DSLR. I'd walk around downtown, and there's the one thing that's cool about Toronto is there's lots of opportunity for photographs with people, structure, like whatever. You can just everything to take pictures of, except for like nature. But I was just walking up Yonge Street beside the Eaton Center, which if anyone's from Toronto knows, it's just right downtown. It's kind of where Dundas Square is kind of like Toronto's version of Times Square in New York.
Yep.
And so this is on the corner of Yonge and Shooter Street. Shooter Street, for any of the artists out there, that's kind of where Massey Hall is, a beautiful venue. And she was just begging there and people walking by. And I was shooting with a long lens. I think I was shooting with my 18 to 135, if anyone cares. And I was across the street and I just sniped her from there. And I was trying to get I was trying to get the person as the foreground element in there. And I was to kind of frame her in the shot. And I didn't really expect it to turn out, when I shoot it, I don't necessarily think about, am I shooting in black and white? Am I doing in color? I just wanted to get her with a person in the front. And so I managed to get, that hand there, the black and white contrast and the light. And then again, after the fact, I go in and I see the TD, the TD logo there, where of course that's her little bank account that she's asking for money in. So I just thought that was, I don't want to say humorous, but it was just like really well timed and placed shot. And to have that logo there, that wasn't intentional. That was just a little bonus that I see after when I'm going through the photos, when I'm calling through and deciding what ones I'm going to keep and which ones I'm going to toss, etc.
Yeah, and for people who haven't been to the TD, it's likely a cup of water or coffee because you can get it in the lobby. So she may have helped herself to some water or coffee there to get that cup, or it's a recycled or secondhand cup. And then this one, you have to take a look at it to realize, oh wow, those are big pots. And what is this man up to?
Yeah, I was again walking. I was way across the other side of Queen Street, walking west, and I looked up and I saw this guy sitting there with his feet in the fountain. And I thought, oh, that's pretty funny. And then I just noticed like there's this small man, and these big pots. There's actually they call something CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. And so sometimes if you look at very big public gathering spaces, like at Dundas Square, for example, they'll have big giant pots like that and stuff around, and that's often to keep like vehicles from slamming into stuff. So it's kind of more of a crowd control safety thing. But these have these giant pots there. I thought the contrast against the small little man was pretty cool, and so I shot it for that scale. And when I got home and edited it, I'm like, oh, they got all these suds in the water there. What's that coming from? And then if you look right by his hip there, just by his right hip, there's a tiny little like dollar store shampoo bottle. And so I'm just like, oh, this guy's just chilling out. And it was like summer weather, and he's just sitting there washing his feet. And I just thought that was, I thought it was hilarious. And so, and you really kind of have to look to see that the bottle's there. At a glance, you don't really notice it. And I like photographs like that, where there's a hidden element there that you really have to kind of study to see. And it's that, it's like a little secret that's in there,
Yeah, I was about to say. So both of those photos you discovered after the fact, the TD logo and then the shampoo bottle, that you captured even more than you realized at the time. So that's kind of some of the magic in there. So I wanted to highlight some of your photography work because this is one of the things you do and you do it well. But you're also involved in the political side of things because you
I am.
you go to like take back Alberta. You and took photographs of Parker. Actually, you did video. You even do video as well. So you go around to the political events. You meet a lot of the movers and shakers. You know some of the people. You actually know basically everybody by name. Why don't you go ahead and let people know some of the things you've been up to recently and what we can have look forward to from you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when we came out to Alberta, I was jobless, and we were kind of living off our savings. And then Coots happened, and so I thought, well, I have a camera and I have the time, so with the blessing of my wife, and I thought it was just historically significant. We just driven across here. I'm like, there's no way I can go all the way back to Ottawa where I really wanted to be. And then Coots happened, so I'm like, well, I can go there and I could document that. And so that I did that, and I started meeting people in the movement there. And from there, I heard about a guy named Todd Lowen, who is now the Minister of Forestry and Parks. And I heard that he stood up to Kenney, called for his resignation, and that kind of snowballed into the removal of Kenney and the voting in of Danielle Smith. Now, Todd did run against Danielle Smith in the leadership race. They always had like a really friendly, like, in a leadership race, things can get kind of nasty, but Todd is not a nasty person. He never got nasty. He was always kind, always respectful, but he had a spine, and he showed that he had a pair of testes on him, standing up to the premier, and he got kicked out of caucus and everything, right? So
of course,
my wife had sent me a little Instagram poster saying that he was going to be running to be the premier of Alberta to replace Kenney, and he had his campaign launch up in Valley View, which is his hometown. And so I thought, you know what, I want to go up and I want to support this guy. So I drove up from Edmonton, took some pictures at the event. They allowed me to do so. And then from there, I was offered a spot on his campaign team to go and take pictures and cover the campaign. So that's kind of how I got involved in the political side, is by joining him, his campaign manager, and myself in his pickup truck. We drove. I was correct. I thought it was 50,000. I was corrected. There was 70,000 kilometers over the course of 5 months, up and down all around the province. Cool thing about Todd is, like, I'm just with him in his pickup truck. We take turns driving. I'm staying in hotels with him. I'm just a very humble guy, and I got to know him very, very, very well, and got to meet, Danielle, got to meet David Parker, got to meet all sorts of political operatives, all sorts of people,
yeah.
and just got a real fast and quick kind of education in the Alberta political scene. And and I just thought, anything if I have a skill set, my photography, my videography, that I can use to push the right people or the right policies or whatever, I'm going to do that. And very few people in politics will kind of put their neck out like that. And so I just really wanted to kind of align with the people that did. And fast forward, yes, you said I was involved with Take Back Alberta. They had Dr. James Lindsay from the US come up to kind of give a real education on communism and how it is taking over our institutions, and specifically our education system with the SOJU curriculum and with the trans agenda, etc. Got some fire myself, not from any political people, but from the left when I went and covered the Million March for Children, in Grand Prairie. That was kind of the closest one to me. So I drove, we're about an hour 15 away from Grand Prairie. So I drove up there and just took some photos of the event there. And then a month after the fact, I was being attacked online by some of the people of that faction. And it was a whole thing. So I just kind of got got a nice taste of what that's like. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm up to. Documentary wise, I do like to capture Western culture and promote our Western culture, and whether that's politics, whether that's hunting, whether that's homesteading, whether that's rodeo, you name it.
Great.
I just want to promote and preserve this Western culture that my family and I have absolutely fallen in love with. So so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we got to invite you over to the property, because a lot of people want to see what we've done here for our homestead, how we set up, what are we doing while we're building our house. Maybe come over and bring your camera, and I'll take you around. Yeah,
absolutely. I was going to say, just tagging on to what you said before with Zach there about Western separation. It's hard.
Are you ready to cut the line? Are you ready to go?
Me, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm a little bit more extreme than some people around me would like, but the thing is, in order to we can't just snap our fingers and we're separate. It's going to be a long, arduous process. And to get things like an Alberta pension plan, to get things like an Alberta police force, to get all these things, kind of get our ducks in a row, you're going to have those things to be a separate nation anyway. So let's just focus on one step at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So
that's right.
Let's get this APP done. After the APP, and not Alberta Prosperity Project, bless them, they're doing some great work, but the Alberta Pension Plan, let's get that done. Let's maybe work on Alberta Police Force. Let's do the things that we can do to kind of start to take control, and that gets us closer to the issue of Western separation if we can actually achieve that. I'm afraid that if, as much as I dislike Trudeau, I'm afraid that if Pierre does come into power, then it's going to put a lot of people to sleep. I don't want to be an accelerationist and say let Trudeau win, so it pushes us to separation. But we can really just focus on the things that are good for Alberta, and like the pension plan, like I mentioned 100 times already, and that will get us closer to the goal. I think. Can it happen? Can we shift the needle? Can we push the needle more to the separatist side? I think we can, but it's going to be a lot of work. And we can't always be shouting from the rooftops about how terrible the WF is and just not do anything about it. So to engage in the municipal level, start small. Start with your school boards, your library boards, your town councils, your county councils, and start to build up, then maybe provincial, and then we can start to work up from there. So I think start small, organize, and I think that's the way.
Now, you sound like the type of guy that will do what he says. So do you have any announcement? Are you looking at any boards or council or anything like that?
I'm looking at a lot of things I can't really say right now. I don't want to spoil my chances here, but I'm trying to do what I can, where I can.
You practice what you preach.
And also using, again, my photography and cinematography for people that are also trying to do these things. So people that are freedom-minded, they're running campaigns, whether you want to run for the mayor of your town, whether you want to run for your school board as a trustee, whether you want to be an MLA. I'm here committed to help people on the conservative side. No, small C, not necessarily big C, just be freedom-minded, dissident-minded people that want to engage. The problem with our politics is we all think that politicians are snakes and they're evil and they're this. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We never get involved. And the future belongs, my friend Nathan Stanky always says, the future belongs to those who show up for it. And
Right.
if you don't show up to do the politics because it's such a dirty job, well, the dirty people will show up to do it. And so you got to get involved. You got to get your hands dirty, and you got to do the work. And I'm here to do the work. And I encourage everyone else that's listening and watching right now to do the same where you are.
Absolutely, and the chat's really supportive of you and me. I'm being welcomed to Alberta. Thank you. You guys are lovely people. Last comment, and we're going to head over to BC. One of the things I was really impressed about with the people in here, Alberta, and capital C or small c, either way you look at it, is I think it's like 4 out of the last 5 Conservative leaders didn't finish their term. So when the base isn't happy, the base takes action, and they get rid of the leader. This is something that Ontario should be paying attention to, by the way, because I think I looked at the stats last time, and only 1 out of the last 5 Conservatives finished their term. Was that something that you thought was impressive because you were running around the province actually doing that? And what was your take on that? Because to me, I wasn't used to that. Because in Ontario, they just finish the term and then change it. But here, they actually take action, take back. Alberta is a great name. They take action and get rid of leaders they don't like.
That's true. It is hard to kind of build momentum when we do that, but I absolutely agree with it. Yeah, people should be held accountable. I think one of the other things that we can do to really make things good, better for ourselves is to work on things like recall legislation to make it really more achievable, right? You're right. If you go back to was it Ernest Manning? He was. I'm not exactly an Alberta historian just yet. I am learning, but he was premier for a long time. I think Rachel Notley, outside of Ralph Klein, I think Rachel Notley may have been the only one since to actually serve.
Those are the 2 that finished the term. Yeah.
I actually live in the constituency, Todd's constituency of Central Peace. Notley, named after her father, Grant Notley, who was MLA and died in a plane crash.
Sorry to hear that.
We're not loyal to the NDP up here. It's just named to honor the guy that served as an MLA. Actually, I really, I'm rooting for Danielle. I've met her several times. She's been super kind, super nice. She really listens to you. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I really want her to do well. And some things I agree with, some things I don't agree with. But I think overall she's doing a great job. And I really want to see her succeed. But if she, again, and no disrespect to Danielle, if she does betray her people by going back on not do the thing she said she was going to do, then I really hope that she is held accountable. And I hope that her team and the people around her keep her accountable before it gets to that. There are actually something just interesting to think about. There are a couple different ways that you can actually start a new party in Alberta. So for distance, they're like, the Conservatives are this or that. One way is you need 3 sitting MLAs to kind of create a new party. They can do that. And there's another way, the kind of the easiest way outside of that is I believe it's in an election cycle. You need X amount of people. You're going to have to look at the specifics of this because I could be okay with the nuts and bolts, but you need a certain amount of candidates to run in a certain amount of ridings during the election cycle, and you can do that and to create that new party. And then I think to keep the party going, you only need to have like 1 candidate running somewhere to keep it going. But to start the party, so if you want to have a dissident or a kind of a separatist party, whatever the case is, that's a way you can.
The Plaid Family Party or something.
The Plaid Family Party, yeah. I mean, as you probably saw in the last election, the Independence Party got like it's like a couple % of the vote. It's not really, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
No.
So that's what I'm saying. Let's try and support the good people that exist in government now. There are not a lot. Like I met people on one hand, I would say I can say are the good people that I trust, right? Very few. It's a short list, but they are there. They are trying to do the work. And there's a lot of things that do go on behind the scenes that people don't know about. And so try to find all those people, source them out, support them in whatever way you can, and just try to push the envelope as much as you can. And like, don't expect separation overnight. 10 years, 20 years. Will it take that long? Probably.
Could be. Well, when it happens, you'll be taking the photos. So,
that's right. That's right.
You'll be there taking the photos for us, documenting history. Well, TJ, thank you so much. I'm going to jump over to Island Jason. I can see him in the lobby. Looking forward to catching up with him. He's a bit of a superstar now because he was on Zach's show just the other day. But I'm going to catch up with him. Nice for sure. You take care, TJ. Thanks for the last minute addition. I really appreciated that. And yeah,
Thanks,
we're
brother.
gonna take back this culture thing in Alberta, even if we have to recruit people from Ontario all the way to Alberta. We'll do so. Thank you, TJ. You have yourself a great day.
You as well, brother. Damn right we are.
Take care. Take care. And then hello, Jason. How you doing, bud?
Jason, how you doing, man?
It's Jason and Jason. Jason and Jason.
and Jason
Look,
show, yeah.
I'm glad your people were talking to my people and we were able to hook this up tonight. Because like you're out there on the podcast now, you're turning into a bit of a star. I really did enjoy your appearance on Zach's show. I enjoyed
I really
getting to
enjoyed
know
Zach. He's
you. He's a great guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need
Uh,
to run and get away, go to Saskatchewan near Regina. That's where Zach is. I'd do that if I had to go someplace. He's a great guy.
You know, the only problem I have with Zach is the time zone change. Like for some reason, I don't know. He calls it Central Standard Time, and I don't understand the difference between Central Standard Time and Alberta. I don't know. It just gets confusing. So sometimes I miss his podcast live, and I feel terrible when I do. But I managed to catch the last 3. So there you go, Zach. That's BC
Yeah.
stupidity.
And then Saskatchewan doesn't help themselves because they don't actually honor or they don't change their time. They don't do
Yeah, I
the
think that's part of it
the other
too.
thing.
Right?
Right. So when we change ours, we have to kind of remember because for a while they're mountain time, just like Alberta, and then they're Manitoba Central Time. Yeah. And also, by the way, just so you know, Zach screws it up too. Sometimes he does the addition the wrong way. He gets the time wrong, but it happens to the best of us.
So I set my alarm clock for my biological alarm clock for 4:45, and the coffee's set for 4:45, so it's all automatically on because people are complaining about how early your show is, and I'm thinking, man, you're in like you're in Newfoundland, I'm in BC, and I'm catching it every morning. So anyway,
That's right.
Different
For
story.
you, it's 5 a.m. For you, it's 5 a.m. And I
Yeah,
do get
yeah.
that all the time. My afternoon show, we're about 3 weeks booked ahead of time now. The morning one, I try and keep that more flexible because, news and events, and I want to be able to bring people on when something happens. But most people have children in the morning, and most people, especially on the west side, they don't like that 6 or 5 a.m.
Well, see, my problem is I have a job and I have to be there at 7 a.m. So I have to leave about 1:45, and your always show's just always getting good as I have to ditch out.
I'm trying. Just as
Sometimes
you're
I
getting
get
off
to
of
work and you're still on. It's great. I can listen, but
Yeah, and when it gets close to the second hour here, when I know you're at work, that's when we really get juicy, and then we're just trying to keep it. I actually had somebody reach out to me from Alberta, and it said, "Look, you're responsible because my entire team was in the truck with me today, and we didn't leave until your show was done, and you ran an hour long." So he was going somewhere, and his entire team sat and listened to the show. It's kind of flattering, but yeah.
I got to work and I was looking for something to listen to. I wear headphones all day, and I was looking for something to listen to. I saw you were still live, so I logged in, and then you're like, "Okay, that's a wrap for today."
I saw you pop up and like, "Hey, let's get out of here. Jason's back. He's back."
Yeah.
You're awesome, brother. Well, it's great that you and Zach connected, and and I'm glad you were able to come on here today. So what's going on in BC? Everything's looking great.
Well, I was looking around a little bit, and we've been talking about. I want to talk about what Donald said earlier, like the $8 an hour and a place to live for these foreign workers.
Right.
And if you do the math, that's actually not that bad of a deal for a lot of people, right? Like, I mean, you think about if you're making $15 or $20 an hour, what your housing costs might be. I mean, maybe that's not so far off. But what we're seeing in British Columbia, they just announced was that we have double the foreign educated nurse registries this year. And I often wonder if, bringing in all these, because they've lost a lot of the healthcare workers through the vaccine program, now they're bringing in these foreign educated nurses. But I'm thinking that maybe they're doing this to sort of break the nurses union, or reorganize, the way that the expectations that the nurses have. I mean, I think our healthcare workers might be somewhat entitled feeling, as opposed to somebody who comes from another country where they're not, have those same entitlements like wages and time off and, these kind of benefits. So I think that's going to be an issue that we're going to see backfire on the unions, in fact, because what I think will happen is these women will, even though they're foreign, like we saw in the Million Person March, these women are very family oriented. They're very, they value, these kinds of same sort of things. So that's something to watch in British Columbia. We also have a new fake BC Conservative Party who is really gaining popularity. In the last election, they didn't get a single seat. This time they're second in the polls right now. So
now
yeah.
you say fake conservative. Why do you call them fake?
Well, because they were the United. It's a new party. I'm not really up on it, but it's basically. So we have I believe we have like the Conservative Party of British Columbia was actually, or the Liberal Party of British Columbia was actually considered conservative, and the NDP has always been in power here. But I think we might see a swap, and I have a sincere feeling it's just the same old, uniparty BS, where we're going to have more of the same sort of thing with this. So that's the political
When's your next
landscape.
election? When is your next election?
October 24th.
This year, or 24. Okay, so you
coming
got
up, yeah.
Yeah. So just under a year left. So you think NDP is going to lose?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know because David Eby, he's our unelected premier right now. He took over from John Horgan. He's the ultimate beta. I mean, he is. Anyways, he's something
so
else.
beta he became Charlie. He's actually going down the scale.
Exactly.
Charlie Males.
Another thing that's sort of weird that I noticed is BC is moving to reduce raw log exports. Which
did you say log exports?
Raw log exports. So that's been a thing in British Columbia, is that we originally they wanted to keep the wood and the fiber in British Columbia and increase the value. And what was happening is we were shipping these logs to China and they were milling them over there and then selling them back to us. This has been going on for years. So but all of a sudden the BC government's saying, oh, well, we're going to go with you guys. And I think what they're going to do is they're basically going to destroy the market for these products so that they can absolutely just end the log so every time I can't help now, I read a news story and right away I'm looking for the angle on it, right? So we have these mill workers are all thinking, yes, that's awesome. We get to process the wood here in British Columbia. And I'm thinking to myself, well, all the mills in British Columbia are basically shut down and they're probably not worth, they're going to be millions of dollars in retrofit and refit. And I think the government's just going to say, well, yeah, you can harvest it and you can process it in British Columbia, but with the carbon taxes and the labor costs, they're not going to be able to do it. So I don't know. I think it's another fake line that's happening right in front of us.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. And so what are they going to replace it with? What's your hunch? Because that's going to be
they're not. They're going to replace it with immigrants, I guess. I mean, yeah, $8 an hour and a place to live, right? I don't know. We have no industry here. We were built on fisheries and mining and farming and forestry, and they're just destroying every opportunity for that. I mean, there is logging still, but it's not like it was.
Okay, and you mentioned fishery there. Is there anything going on with the fisheries out there?
My son's a commercial fisherman, and he doesn't seem concerned. He seems to think that it's just going to go on forever. I don't know. We talk about things like UNDRIP. We're those fishing territories and rights are probably potentially on the chopping block for non-native people too.
Correct. And then energy. I know that I don't think we're piping through you yet, right?
So we talked about separation, in the sovereign Alberta and Saskatchewan, and I really hope if that ever occurs that there is a method to include portions of British Columbia, like
Northern British Columbia will take.
Northern British Columbia and hopefully that little spot on Vancouver Island.
Just around you, we'll do like.
But what the funny thing is if you look at that flag that says "No Place for Hate," and it shows the country with the rainbow flag. If you look on
Right.
Vancouver Island, there's a little white section. That's where I live.
So you've been
Anyways.
highlighted or outlined there.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, yeah. Or we'll just have to bring you to Alberta one of these days.
yeah.
Yeah. So you were listening to the conversations about Western separation.
Mhm.
Do you think we should be looking at that? Do you think we should be
Oh
looking at
God,
unity?
you know, like I said the other night on Zach's podcast, you know, I'm a patriot. I love Canada, and I don't.
Mhm.
It breaks my heart to think that it's coming to this, but realistically, I mean, there was a thing called Cascadia too, where it was British Columbia, Washington State, and Oregon. There was a Cascadia movement not too long ago, and that's a possibility too. I mean, even to this day, why wouldn't the U.S. just want to annex British Columbia? But I mean, I guess they could if Alberta and Saskatchewan. How would BC stay in Canada?
Maybe
don't
it'll
know.
go to China. Maybe they'll annex it.
Well, it already is. It already is. You
Yeah.
know that river. And never mind, that's a local joke. You won't get it.
A local joke I won't get. No.
Yeah.
And then one more thing I want to chat to you about is independent movement. So we heard from Nova Scotia from Paul that there's independent movement in Nova Scotia, but he also heard
Yeah.
from BC. So there's a big push in BC as well for independent candidates, all levels. So board all the way to MPs. Have you been seeing a bit of a movement or
So I
something in the air there?
I haven't really seen it. I mean, my only connection with an independent was basically Serena, and with her running for the school board thing. And I don't know. It's I honestly there isn't a lot of. Well, I'm not exposed to a lot of local political information. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
because I'm not looking for it or I'm just not on Facebook. I don't really know where it is. I mean, so other than our local town council meetings that I do watch on YouTube, it's about the extent of my local political knowledge.
No, fair enough. But if they're going to possibly drop NDP, so if it's heading in that direction where NDP is losing a lot of support, there may be a lot of people looking for a new home that used to vote NDP, but they don't want to do conservative, even the liberal conservative version. So there may be a bit of an appetite even on the left for independent candidates in the next election, especially if they're going to look at such a lot.
I'm sure there will be. I think there is basically independence in every riding, and I just don't know how they can overcome the juggernaut of the large parties. I mean, like I said, I don't see that, so I don't know where. And I mean, I am involved in politics, so I don't know why I don't see it. I assume it's because it's either hard to find or, obscured by it's being censored. So I don't know. We saw things. They had those ladies were trying to do a ladies' night in Parksville, something about Soji, and their event got canceled. And they tried to get another event place, and it got canceled too, I guess. And our political landscape here is clownery to
Yeah.
say the least. Yeah.
Well, we just saw a comment from one of our regular viewers wondering why you're still in BC.
Well, I mean, we own
It's your
a home. We have,
home.
I'm born and raised here. We have grandchildren that live in the same area. I don't know. We don't
The
really have
roots-
an option
the
to
roots are there.
leave.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And then a quick
Our
little
parents
update
are
for
here.
you. For sure. And I hate even it's suggesting that somebody leaves where they grew up because of political changes and stuff like that. How's your finger? This is something that we haven't updated
My
on.
finger actually healed up really well. It's pretty
Very good.
greasy hands, but the middle finger, I just crushed it in a press in August, and it was pretty nasty. Our friend Bethan called it Little Freddy. Little Freddy.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But no, it came back good, and actually, I'm going to have to trim my nails here for the first time since it came back. So that'll be cool.
well,
Anyways,
Jason, thank you.
I'm going to jump off here. I got the Ragecast 400 tonight, so looking forward to seeing Jeremy in action. So hopefully, you guys join us.
Yeah,
in
me
that.
too. Yeah, I'm going to be joining after this one as well. Thanks, Jason. You've
Thanks
been
again.
awesome and great that your finger is better. Take care, my friend.
Yeah, I love your show, man, and you guys, you and Donald have been doing amazing work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Your check's in the mail. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, brother. See you around. Bye.
What's the rep?
And to the north. Oh, I didn't even prep you. Here we go. You're right on. How are you today, Melissa? I didn't even say,
Hi,
hey, we're
I'm
bringing her on.
okay.
Just boom, there you are. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I
Can you give
brought
me-
George with me today. He's joining me because he's
Nice.
got a real bone to pick. So I think that
cool.
he's the right person to come on.
Okay, cool. So while we wait for George, how are you doing? How's the last week been for you? No, hey, George. You see.
Hello.
Hey, bud.
The
So-
week went by really fast. I don't know if it happened for you, but I'm like in shock that it's already Wednesday and that we're talking again. It feels like yesterday we were live.
100%, and I get the same thing too. It's like, what? It's Wednesday already. I got to reach out to everybody and get it going. But yeah, it goes by quick. It goes by quick. Before you know it, we'll be at Christmas, and before you know it, we'll be in 2024, and who knows, maybe an election. We'll see. But it goes by quick. And George, we didn't see him last week, right?
No.
I've been on the road.
How are
a
you
lot.
doing?
I'm pretty
Yeah?
good. A little tired. I've been all over the Yukon almost every day. It's been pretty awesome. But yeah, I've been waking up earlier than I have to for my job and working on Goose and Maple jobless jobs work. This morning I was up at 4, and then I was just wiped all day. I had to have a nap this afternoon. So I mean, I'm doing good, keeping busy, but starting to wear down a little bit. I'm looking forward to Christmas.
No doubt. And how's the dog doing?
Oh, he's great. He's outside.
He's outside.
He's growing fast. Yeah, he's really playful. He's not biting as much. Not bad for a 4.5-month-old puppy. And he's just super cool. I hung out with his little sister yesterday a little bit on the Dempster Highway up north, which is where I met him.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm glad that he's coming along good. And you guys ready for winter? Anything you have to get done? Are you all ready?
We got a shovel last week. We're ready. It's already winter here. It's already winter
fair
here.
enough.
We got
Yeah,
our,
we just
got an extension cord to plug the car in 2 weeks ago, and last week we got a shovel. I think we're good to go. I put plastic
That's it?
over all the windows.
That's all it takes for you. Okay, cool. Yeah, we just finished up today getting propane to this trailer, so now I'll have a decent heat in this trailer now. So we're ready as well, because I'm going to get ready for those minus 40 below and still trying to do the show in the trailer. So I think we're ready. We're ready. So I hear you have a bone to
Speaking of propane.
Yeah, go on.
Speaking of propane and energy, that's a perfect segue.
There you go. Set you up. T-ball. There you go. Get it.
It's like you're made for this or something. Yeah, so you want to take the floor because we're going to talk a little bit about electricity bills, and I don't know what it's like for the rest of Canada, but up here we're
Crap.
getting dinged a lot.
Yep.
You know, Jason, I was thinking while I was on the road the last couple of days that we might bring up this topic tonight if I was here. And I was thinking that if it works out with you and your audience, that maybe this could be an ongoing subject, because with the price of food, with the cost of everything, the cost of living, the cost of fuel, the last thing we need is crown corporations and or sanctioned companies that have the monopoly on us to ding us and kick us while we're down. And that's what's going on up here in the Yukon with ATCO Energy. They have they're the sole owners of the contract to provide us electricity. And I'm holding in my hand here a printout of our September bill.
Don't dox us.
This isn't even
No.
sorry.
Hold it up.
This isn't even the like they get bigger. They get bigger in November, December. I'm just holding the September one that we got in early October. That was printed on October 4th. And the total bill for electricity for that month is for the month of September was $128.76. And the total energy charge for the electricity we used out of this whole bill was $44.43.
Okay. And
So
the rest
there's
are
an
fees?
extra $80 plus that appears on this bill.
So like
And
200% markup.
Yeah, it's absurd. So there's things like now I don't know about you, but when I think about a rider fee or a rider service, I think about like the 1980s myth about Van Halen's brown M&Ms. I don't know if you guys know that story.
No.
You
Fill us
know,
in.
when a band comes to town, they put on their rider what they want served
Oh,
to them
right. Okay.
in their.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a whole bunch
The
of riders
demands to
on.
perform.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of riders on here. There's an AEY ATCO Energy Yukon rate adjustment rider for $4.26. All right, I'm just gonna read out a few of these, like 4 of them.
Oh, wow.
There's a fuel adjustment rider for $5.98. I don't know what all this means. There's a bigger one here, Yukon Energy Revenue Shortfall Rider. Yukon Energy Revenue Shortfall Rider for an added $17.86.
Whoa.
There is a customer charge of $6.84, and there is taxes on top of that. So with all of these things accumulating, we suddenly find ourselves with a bill for $128 that should have been, according to the energy charge, $44.43. And I don't understand what any of this is. You know, it gets even worse. ATCO Energy is Yukon Energy. They provide electricity here. They can't get our address right.
Mm-hmm.
Our neighbor keeps getting our mail. I've spoken over the phone with the representative of our account. I've sent it via email. I have done that more than once. He clarified with me over the phone and via email to make sure I get my address. They get my address right. And they keep sending our letters to our neighbor, so they can't even get our Amazon. Jeff Bezos gets our address right away. And
Yeah.
So on top of all this, I have to continually chase them down to make sure that our neighbors are not getting our address. So with the amount of money we're paying them, you'd think that they can afford someone who's decent and intelligent enough to just do their admin correctly, their administrative work. This is a small bill. This is the smallest one we've had. The November and the October, November bills are upwards of $300. I haven't told Melissa. It's absolutely absurd. Like we have our November bill for electricity. This isn't about gas. This isn't anything else. This is just electricity. For 2 of us, the 2 of us in a small 3-bedroom. We are being charged upwards of $300 a month in the winter. We have a washer dryer, an oven, a dishwasher. We have a little space heater which we use. But I know when I was in Manitoba 15 years ago in my little bachelor suite apartment, I was paying between $7 and $15 a month in electrical bills, and I was running a space heater 24 hours a day. So
the good old days.
Yeah, the proportionally, this is absurd. So I would love it if maybe, I mean, it's up to you, if maybe we can do an episode of all the different people across Canada sharing their bills, their electrical bills, and we discuss what's going on. I want to know what it's like in Nova Scotia to pay an electrical bill based on what I'm experiencing here in Yukon. I want to know what it's like in BC. I want to know what it's like in Saskatchewan. I want to understand how they're able to make this legal, because our electrical bill is $44.43, which I think is high for the month of September.
Yeah.
Just $44. It should be half of that. It's electricity. There's dams all over the place. It's true. There's lots of running water in Yukon. You know, that's really high. The infrastructure is built. It doesn't cost them anything to just, they're not having to make anything new. They're just monitoring it and running it. That's all. that's been built for a while. So the infrastructure is already there. And so with another, 200% increase on that is, I don't understand how that's legal. And it gets worse as we get into November, December. I can bring those next week.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I'll ask each guest to do that, and maybe we'll extend it to not just energy, but to heating as well. Because across the country, some people do electric heating, some do propane, some do oil. So maybe if we put those two together, electricity plus heating, we'll get a good idea of utility costs across the country. I can tell you, there's a lot of people in Alberta going, "I wish I had $100 September bill." Here, it's like $300 or $400 for the average home. But there's a lot of electric heating out here, though. So and propane, but it's bad. It's bad, and I can't help because we're on solar, so we don't have a electric bill. But we definitely have an energy bill. Well, it's got its disadvantages too. We got to clear it from snow. We can't leave for vacation. Some other things. But we do love the fact that we can charge our car off of our own solar grid. That's kind of cool. Hey, how do you get that bubble there? That was kind of neat. What was that? There was something that came up on your screen. It was like a like. Yeah, there's something on your screen there. That was kind of neat. Cesus likes what you said. Yeah, it was on your side.
Cesus likes what you said.
Yeah, Cesus likes what you said there.
No, this electrical bill, this isn't how we heat our home. We have a little space heater, but our home is an oil burner.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at, because some places they do a lot of electric for their heating as well. Not where you are, it's oil. But that's what I'm suggesting is we'll go cross country and get people to bring their electric and heating bill to get an idea of their total utility cost. Now, do you have your year over year? So what was it like last September? Does that say on that bill?
Well, we just started with ATCO in August. We just moved here in May. And we were staying in a campground until mid-August, so we're just like 3-4 months into dealing with ATCO Electric Energy Yukon.
Have you considered charging them a fee to go pick up your mail from the neighbor, like $100? Last mile delivery fee.
That's a good idea. They got a pretty vocal email from me, and then there's been no response. I basically laid it all out, going like, I don't understand how you guys can charge all this and still get everything wrong. And this ties into why I believe it should be a free and open market. Why can't there be competition? They'd be better if there was competition, and it'd be cheaper, and their service would be better. This is a typical top-heavy government situation where the contract is awarded to one company, and they're putting their shareholders ahead of the well-being of their customers.
It's the same thing with internet up here. We have Northwestel. That's the only internet provider aside from Starlink that you can get a connection, and they're really expensive. So yeah, that's just another example of a monopoly in Yukon. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, well, Starlink opened up the door for a lot of people. Like for us, we wouldn't be able to do this show if it wasn't for Starlink, because a local provider. I don't have wires, so we have to go with ExploreNet. A lot of people know who they are. They use them in Ontario a lot. Not great. Now, let's get into a little bit of news there. So, yeah, I think, George, what we'll do is we'll either next week or the week after invite people to bring their energy bills, and let's have a conversation across Canada about that. I think it's a great idea. And Melissa, how are the caribou and the buffalo doing?
The caribou?
Any update on them?
Okay, so they're tracking the caribou. They don't have any solid numbers on the death of the caribou or anything, except other than the population's going down. You can tell they say it's from climate change or increase in hunting, increase in predators, and so on. So that's unfortunate. It's just in general the numbers are going down, but they haven't said anything recently of any illness, and that's just according to Northwest. Yeah, it was Northwest Territories newsroom. But for Nunavut, on the topic of energy, the government is giving homeowners in Nunavut $1,000 rebate to cover heating costs for next year. So they did that last year as well. and it's only for homeowners. So if you're renting a place, you can't get the rebate. And if you're a homeowner who is renting out to a house, you can't get the rebate
Pass
for
it
that
through.
either.
The
You
landlord.
have
Really?
to live. Yeah, sorry, the landlord. Yeah, you have to live physically in the house and own it in order to get the rebate. You can't be a landlord.
So just
get
because
the-
you pay it is not enough. You have to own the property that you live in to get that rebate.
Yeah.
Okay, that's discriminatory to homeowners. That's not right. It either should be the landlord gets a credit that gets passed on, or the bill payer, the person that pays the bill, should get that credit. I think that'd be a lot more fair.
Yeah, why not? But still lucky for homeowners in Nunavut. I don't know the number of homeowners. I can't say if it's a large population. So like how many people are really benefiting from this? Not sure.
Right.
But yeah, it just kind of ties into what we were talking about just now. And I mean, they're right now they're calling on for people to get their shots, and
Again.
because of the COVID. And
Convid.
I just had a quick look in Nunavut. There's about 40,600 people living there, and 36.8% are fully jabbed, which means that they've had 3. But they're really pushing it and asking people to come in again. And I've seen the same thing here in Yukon. We've been getting a lot of advertisements, and they're all over the newspaper saying like, come in. And they're in the news. They're even saying, oh, the numbers are going down. People aren't like coming in to get their jabs, and this is a little bit of a crisis. Like, what's going on with people? So that's a good sign too. That
It is. I'm like, this is good news. Well,
yeah,
they're gonna
it is
twist
good.
it.
So that's all that's going on in the north, and for this week, anyways, it's the caribou and electricity, and yeah.
No, cool. Now we have enough time to talk about your 2 businesses, so Jabless Jobs and Maple and Goose. Or
Maple
Goose and Maple.
Goose, close enough. Goose and
Goose and
Maple.
Maple. Goose and
Also,
Maple.
yeah.
Sorry about that. There was a chat on the screen. I was saving my talk because it's in your name there, but my chat people set me up on that one. They got rid of your name right at the wrong time. Goose and Maple, why don't you give an update? Because I think you had a release, a new update recently. Did you update the website? Or?
Okay, so just to clarify, we're Jabless Jobs Incorporated. That's how we started. We started Jabless Jobs on Telegram, and it evolved into a website, and it blew up, and it turned into something wonderful. We have a short-term goal, an ongoing goal, and we also have a long-term goal. Our long-term goal is to eventually win over the 40 to 60% of the people in the middle on the fence throughout all of Canada. And we're not going to be able to do that if we're called Jabless Jobs, but we are federally incorporated, called Jabless Jobs. And we are Jabless Jobs Incorporated. We have shareholders, we have partners. Jabless Jobs Incorporated owns the name Goose and Maple. So our forward-facing name now is gooseandmaple.com. We actually got both names trademarked. So gooseandmaple.com is our business name, our website name. But on gooseandmaple.com is the Jabless Jobs job board, the JJ job board, as we like to call it. So it still says Jabless Jobs on there. So it's a little confusing, and we're going to have both names kind of running parallel for a period of time until we feel comfortable to just solely go with Goose and Maple, because we are Jabless Jobs, and Goose and Maple is how we're going to be around for the long term. We decided on the name Goose and Maple because we wanted to give a description of a name that describes who we are without using a lot of the trigger words or flag words of the freedom movement. So Maple's very Canadian, and geese like to honk. And so we wanted to put that together. And also I wanted a fun name that represents Canada and is repeatable and easy to remember, except for when you say it, Jason. And then
yeah, sorry.
And so that's why we're gooseandmaple.com. And so it's been going great. According to a complicated website, we've had a lot of bugs. We've pulled our hair out. A year ago, I had a lot more hair, and
Gotcha.
And we've gone through the ringer with it over the last year and a half, trying to get the design straight and the development done. It's a very complicated website from the back end because we have a business directory on one side and a job board on the other, and both are accessible from the business owner's dashboard.
Okay.
And there's pay windows. Then we have also customers and candidates who want to either apply to jobs or be a customer on the supporting the businesses on the directory. So it's been
That's free.
yeah, it's been very to apply for jobs or to just browse businesses and it's free. But to post a business on the directory or to post a job, that's where we charge. That's the only end we charge is the business owners, and we're committed to keeping our team small, and we're committed to keeping our prices low because of the situation with the economy. I just do not want to
People's energy bills.
people's energy
That's
bills.
right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's going great. I mean, we finally just leveled off and got rid of a lot of the bugs. We're giving a presentation on Friday. Did you have a question?
No, I was going to wrap up, but you can finish up.
What's that?
Wrap up.
I said I was going to wrap up, but you can finish up.
No, I just wanted to, I was rambling a little bit about the name and how it all came up. One more thing I want to say is how we're going to win over the 40 to 60% of the people in the middle is by reestablishing a cultural connection, being Canadian, and offering an economic incentive. So we're working not just to provide jobs and a platform for up and coming businesses, small to mid-sized businesses to present their services, but we're also working to reconnect with people who don't really know where they belong in the country. We want to just encourage people in the workforce, people that are business owners, to just be better than they were before. So we're encouraging our better versions of ourselves, because we're not calling it a parallel economy. We're calling it the economy of integrity, because I believe that as Canadians, we can do better than we have been.
Oh, Canada. I like that a lot. Integrity. It's not a parallel economy. It's integrity. And that's the number one focus there. Take care of people. Take care of people that work with you, your neighbors, even the employer. Take care of the employer, because we need them. We need them. Absolutely. So what we'll do is next week, we'll check in on your electric bill and your hairline, see if that moved anymore because of your website. But we'll pay attention to that. Say hi to the pup for us. 4.5 months. That's a beautiful pup. You're going to enjoy it some more. And I like your idea. We will have people, I don't know if it'll be next week or at least the week after, bring their energy bills as well. I saw some people mentioning the BC bills, the Alberta bills. So even if you're watching this show, bring your bill and you can put it into the chat. So we can probably maybe get a bunch of stats and a bunch of data out of everybody. Thank you both very much for that. I appreciate that. Any last words for Canada?
No, just come and visit Yukon sometime, guys. It's beautiful. I was on the Dempster Highway yesterday. It's spectacular. Even when it's dark all the time, it's gorgeous. The skies up here are amazing.
Absolutely. And Goose and Maple. I'll get it. I won't forget again. Thank you, George, and thank you, Melissa. You guys are wonderful. Great to see you. And take care of the North for us, okay?
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Thanks, Jason. Bye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye. Well, there you go, folks. Are you ready? Oh, that was 3 hours. It doesn't feel like 3 hours. It feels like an hour or so, because boy, did we get through them all. But from Chet all the way to Melissa and everybody in between, we had a good conversation, especially in Ontario. Oh my gosh, Ontario, what are you doing with the Service Ontario? You're farming it out. You're having people who don't care about Canada taking care of Canadians, and they got access to our data. I think that's the headline for me, is new Canadians having access to all Canadians' data. That's a challenge. Okay, that's a challenge. Absolutely, there should be some more data integrity and some more data protection there. We talk about privacy all the time. Don't dox, don't share this, don't share that. But yet there's people having access to the databases in Ontario, and they committed crimes. Like straight up fraud crimes. It's horrible. Thanks to Paul out in Nova Scotia as well. Always really good to hear what you're up to. I'm glad you're feeling better. And Voip Pop. He's still doing his Voip Pops. And they changed the law on him. I want to follow that up a little bit more to see precisely what did they change when it comes to his requests, but his requests are now paused. They are passing a new law, and it's interesting that he's running into those kind of troubles. Quebec, oh my gosh, I just sat back. Chemtrails and what's going on. He's got some pictures. There's some information about geoengineering, and boy, Dan's got a lot of info. So we are going to have him on the show. I believe it was the 18th. Let me pull that up. But the topic is, the 18th, 6 a.m. Mountain, so 8 a.m. Eastern. Dan will be back, and it'll be Globalist Uncovered. Because, boy, has he done research. And I'm really glad we met him. And then Daniel's one of my favorite people, a lieutenant for the PPC out east. And, boy, he's got some good information as well. And him and Dan and Daniel, that's going to be quite the combination to have in Quebec frequently. So I hope you enjoyed that. Of course, we talked about Ontario a bit, but it was Miss Cece. That was her second time doing a podcast. Her first time was this morning on our morning show. You're going to see a lot more of her. She's a natural. She's great to listen to. She's got the intelligence. She's got the information, and she's also got the passion to do it. Single mother kicking some butt. We love her. She's amazing. And then Donald. Oh my gosh, is he quite the presenter? He's really, really getting good at that. I just find myself captivated with Donald all the time. Sorry for Manitoba. I got a message from Todd. He apologized. Couldn't make it this week, but we're going to make it happen next week. So we'll get an update on Manitoba as well. And then Zach's crushing it in Saskatchewan. Can't be happier to have him on. And I love the fact that he's interviewing a whole bunch of people. Tom Razzo's coming up. He just did Island Jason. It's great to see this community working together all over the place. It's wonderful. Alberta, TJ Kennedy, great photographer. He's doing good work. He's out there going to the Alberta Take Back Alberta events, APP. He's very connected to the movers and shakers, and he's fresh here. So we welcome here. Welcome. And I saw a lot of people welcoming me to Alberta as well. I appreciate that. I love you guys. You're great. And then Island Jason, he's given us his lowdown on BC. Oh, so they don't really have a conservative party, and there's a fake conservative party, and I'm just glad Jason's finger is better. That's really all I can say about BC. Like, it is kind of disturbing to hear some of that stuff, but thank you, Jason, for bringing that to us. And then Melissa and George up north with the little pup. George, yeah, your hairline, that happens in tech. Believe me, I'm a tech guy. Those bugs will get to you. You'll yank out all that hair. Absolutely. And then Melissa, you're rocking it again. Sorry to hear about the caribou and the buffalo, but it was interesting to have George take on the electric side of things and maybe get people to bring their bills in the next week or two and start comparing them. Canada, let's pay attention to this. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. It was an interesting episode. I enjoyed it. And I actually got to sit back a lot on this one because our guests are getting so good that I don't even need to help and ask questions. They're just going with it, especially Quebec and Ontario. I could have sat there for hours listening to them. So you all have yourself a great evening. And if you're not a fan of Diagolon, go check it out. Go watch Rage tonight. It's his 400th episode. It should be a good one. If you are a fan, then you're already going to be there, so that's great. Go see Jeremy and see what he's up to. But if you're not a fan, check it out. Just check it out. Get past. It's an R-rated. It's R-rated. It's for adults. It's not for kids. So if you need to be coddled, it's not the show for you. But if you're an adult and you can handle adult language, it's a show for you. He's an intelligent gentleman. He knows what he's talking about, and he's the canary in Canada because he's ringing the bells for us. So go check out Rage tonight. It'll be a good episode, I'm sure of it, and I'm going to go check it out. Have you all a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. I'm up at 4 a.m. Mountain Time, so I'm an early bird. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early. Have yourself a great night. Love you all, and God bless.